astrologers must rid themselves of material desires. Only by ridding oneself of clutter can one see the true world around them.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome. How are you all doing tonight? Welcome.
Fate is called as such, for it cannot be changed, nor can it be reversed. It can only but be accepted.
Yeah, I have seen those. Welcome, Ziano. I am doing just fine. Yeah, Dog, I think a lot of people are excited to see how Raiden's going to look. That's an interesting character we have kind of coming on from that. I think it's going to be cool. Welcome, Wetton. I'm doing good, Jamgon. Thank you. How are you? Lord Langley, you can ask questions anytime you want. There's not really a beginning or end. Pretty much once the stream starts, pretty much it all just gets going. So if you got questions, feel free to go ahead and get them fired whenever you're ready. My opinion on Child versus Mona. So I haven't leveled up Child yet. I do have him, but I have not gotten him leveled yet. He's still kind of slowly working his way up. I suspect they're going to both be very good. I don't know about one being better than other, but I kind of suspect they'll be on a relatively even playing field as far as overall output potential over like a period of time. I don't think he's going to have near the burst potential that Mona has, though. Yeah, I suspect that Raiden probably will have some level of Honkai Impact release. You're right about that. Yeah, Scaramouche or Scaramoche is supposed to be one of the Harbingers. That should be pretty interesting once that character gets into the story here pretty soon. Welcome, Thaddeus. You notice a lot of Hydro users seem to have a strong connection to some sort of code. I'm not sure if I know what you mean, Lord Langley. What do you mean by code, out of curiosity? Welcome, Ravish. At a certain point, you need 2 teams for Spiral Abyss. Yeah, you do. I want to say it's at floor 5 and above. Once you get to those, then I can just head over there and kind of give you a better explanation. But once you get to, I think it's floor 5, you then have to have 2 teams set up in order to actually begin to progress a little bit further through the Spiral Abyss. And if you don't have those, then you'll get stuck. I want to say it was 5. Let's see. I think it was. Yeah, this one does have 2 teams that you require to have. I don't think they had them in 4. Yeah, no, still just 1 and 4. So yeah, be aware of that. At that point, you will have to start leveling other characters if you haven't already. Curious on my take on the implications of Zhongli's contract with the Tsaritsa. So, that's a really interesting topic. So, he wouldn't say anything about why or what he was going to get out of it, which is interesting in itself, but he did say it was part of the contract as to why. Now, he's the god of contracts, so obviously he's not going to take a contract that doesn't result in something he wanted. So and I feel like he wouldn't have entered into a contract which would give the Tsaritsa his gnosis unless he believed in whatever the cause was, right? Like if he believed that she was going to do something that was going to bring nothing but death and destruction to the people of Liyue, I don't think he would have done it, because the whole time he was pretty concerned with the security of Liyue. So if giving his gnosis away was going to immediately undermine that by giving it to somebody who's going to probably lay siege to Liyue at some point in the future, I think that would have been a direct conflict of interest. So I don't know that he would have gotten into that. Interesting. Okay, I see what you're saying. Child and Xingqiu all have a warrior's honor thing. That just might have been a bit of a coincidence kind of situation right now. I mean, we only have four Hydro characters at the moment, two of them being mages. I suppose you could also say that kind of Mona also has a little bit of like an honor-bound kind of situation, because she will not use her hydromancy to make money. So I guess you could kind of skew it that way as well. She's a little bit of an honorable spirit as well. But yeah, that's an interesting observation that I hadn't noticed. I'll be interested to see if more of the Hydro characters take on that personality trait. Yeah, the Electro Archon is Bao. Mm-hmm. The Eternal Shogun. Yeah, that's what they're saying. They're saying that the Electro Archon should be female. So we'll see how that kind of ends up working out as the storyline progresses. We probably won't get to actually find out anything on that, obviously, until 2.0 or however they decide to do it, like whatever the version level is for the Inazuma release. It could end up being, just like 1.5 or something. Venti's Gnosis was surprisingly easy to take, given he was one of the two original old gods. Yeah, so the thing about Venti was he had two layers of things kind of working against him that made him weaker. So you kind of can't forget about that when discussing that particular ease of the removal of his Gnosis. How's it going, Zach? Do I think that the other story quest that's presumably Zhongli's, what will it be about? I don't know. I kind of think we might be seeing a little bit more about, like kind of how he's settling into, his normal life as just a person in Liyue now. Because, now that he doesn't have his Gnosis, I'd imagine he's a little bit more akin to like what the Adepti are. Yeah, I'd assume he's obviously still, an immortal being and still quite powerful, but he doesn't maybe necessarily have the same level of control over the elements that he once had. So he obviously he's not going to have quite the same power that he once had. 1.4 might be April. Yeah, I mean, it's on a 6-week release schedule. So, if you keep bumping up things by 6 weeks, you can kind of extrapolate what the version totals are going to end up being, or when the version releases should be. Do I think it would be better to have Xingqiu as your support or Tartaglia as a support? I think strictly as a DPS, I think Child/Tartaglia is going to end up working better for you. But I've definitely seen some interesting things done by, building pretty hard into Xingqiu. Now, his elemental burst, it can be quite powerful on its own as well. It's not actually burst damage, it's single target, and it does a lot of damage over time. And kind of depending on who you pair that character up with, you can make you can make a lot of strides in overall damage output. So it's definitely one of those characters that can still be a pretty prolific producer. So I think the issue is in regards to the age of the Archons. So we know that Rex Lapis / Morax was the oldest of the Archons. That's been well established. Venti, I don't know if he is one of the oldest Archons. I think his whole situation was we know that he only took over the position of Animo Archon something like a little over two or 3,000 years ago, based on the revolt during the Archon Wars against Decarabian. So yeah, so I don't think he's one of the older ones, but he is one of the last 2 of the original 7. So like of the original 7, several of them of the original 7 elements gods, several of them have been, you know, overthrown and replaced. Archons getting their gnosis taken away is them being reduced to 5-star characters. Yeah, that's an interesting analogy. I could say that that's probably about right. Is Child good? Yes, he is. I think that there's going to be some, you know, like it's going to take a little while probably to kind of lock in on what exactly the optimum build is for him. But I can say from doing his story quest, the build that they had on him, not necessarily the set that they used on him, because they had a Noblesse Oblige 4-piece set on him, which I felt was a little bit of a waste. But the stats that they had built on him were basically kind of what I use on my Mona. So I had him still built into this team, so it was built with pyro resonance and a lot of vaporized damage, and he was just shredding stuff during the his story quest when he was available to be played, and it was pretty crazy. So the actual trial quest where you get to play him, I felt that the build they had keyed up on him there was relatively underwhelming, and it kind of left it kind of, you know, wanting. I wasn't really sure if, like, okay, I don't know if he's going to really be any good, but then, yeah, during a story quest, he was built a lot differently, and he was much, much, much better. Do I think Bal, aka Raiden, will look similar to Raiden May from Honkai Impact? I don't know. I know a lot of people are kind of suggesting that may be possible. Only time will kind of tell on that. It's very, very probable that she could. It could be, you know, one of those, you know, given Honkai Impact type references. But at the same time, they could continue to separate from that a little bit. There's definitely, haven't been particularly shy about making characters who are visually akin to other characters, though, because I know a lot of people have pointed out that the whole, like, Wendy, Venti appearance similarity, things like that. How's my Skyward Atlas leveling going? It's done. I've actually been using it this week. I haven't done any official testing with it, but I'm planning to do some of that this week after my next video project is done. And I'll probably release, like, I'll either do a testing video where I talk about the results of those tests, or I'll do a stream next Saturday where I talk about the results at the beginning, somewhere within the first half hour of that stream or something of that sort. I'll probably gauge my Discord community a little bit this week as to what format they would prefer I do that in, but we'll see. Do I think delusions are visions but modified in Inazuma, since we know they kept vision locked? Shneznaya Archon may be in touch with Electro Archon. So I think that what we do know of the delusions is that they're artificial. So I don't believe that they actually have any direct relation to actual visions. They supposedly are usable by individuals who don't even have a vision. And we've seen that actually in the manga, where Diluc's father, who was never graced with a vision, was using one against a dragon, which it then backfired on him and killed him. But it is possible. Yeah, Zhongli did forget his 401k. Unfortunate. Just got Jean. How should you use her without main team of Diluc officials Xiangling, or with the main team of Diluc officials Xiangling Chi-Chi, or should you make her your second DPS? So one of the great things about Jean is that she can be used as a secondary DPS quite easily. Her E has quite a good amount of punchy damage output production, and you just build her leaning into energy, recharge, and attack. If you balance those two things well enough, you'll still get good returns from her heals and from her attack all at once, which is really nice. One of the things I've been considering trying with her is to see whether or not I don't think I will, though, and I think this is one of those exceptions. I've been considering trying an Animo bonus damage on her, which I have one around here somewhere, but because it won't scale her heals, I haven't really wanted to mess with it. It might be one of those situations where, yeah, it might make her do more damage, but I think that the nerf to her heals will kind of make it not just worthy. we'll see. Just want to say that you love my lore essays. Recently subbed to it for a while and made you curious about the game story. Good. I'm glad that you've enjoyed the content that I've put forth. Writing the lore stories and the theories and all that are something that I've found myself having a lot of passion for. So I'm glad that it resonates. Thank you. You just got Gene 2. Nice. How to use Noelle as a main healer with Child, Fischl, and Xiangling. So if you want to use Noelle as your main healer, I would definitely recommend leaning into defense scaling with her. So make sure that you're building as much defense on her as possible. And that's actually something that I'm doing with mine. And I have used her effectively in the Spiral Abyss thus far. Currently, for artifacts, I'm using pretty much Gladiator across the board, with the exception of this, which is just, another defense artifact. And where I think, honestly, the weapon that I've gotten the best results with from her is the Sacrificial Greatsword, because it has a really high chance at high refinement to continuously reset the cooldown on Breastplate, which makes her basically invincible, which makes her heal you much more frequently. So if you have a Sacrificial Greatsword, I think it's probably one of her best options. It also increases energy recharge, which will help her keep her elemental burst up more frequently. So you kind of can't go wrong with that. Is a team of Razer, Xiangling, Chi-Chi, and Fischl good? I can definitely see where there would be some merit to that. You're not really getting a particularly output-focused resonance bonus from that team. It will depend also on who your primary DPS is. I mean, you do have Electro Resonance in that team username, which, I guess is okay. It's one of the better ones, I think. I personally prefer Pyro Resonance, so if you were to swap anybody out, probably a character like Razer with another Pyro or something might be better. Or if you get a different healer, you could push Chi-Chi out. But I think that team actually overall wouldn't work bad, so long as you have you have a well-defined primary DPS and a well-defined primary support character. You're going to wail for Zhongli. Yeah, I definitely plan to get him. You can definitely expect to be seeing Zhongli content here as soon as he is an available character. Please show me your build with Mona. You've been trying to find a good one, but most of them are one-shot build, which you don't think is really realistic. So my Mona is basically set up for attack and critical rate. I'm actually working on mixing this with that one-shot build and general DPS and trying to figure out where I can maximize both. Because I know what you're talking about, this idea of just setting it up for big Stellaris damage. But I also agree with you. I think it's kind of not optimal for her. I think that you can still try to extract large damage numbers from Stellaris while also still having Mona be good at normal attack damage and charged attack damage. So I've done that by using a 2-piece attack set, which is the Gladiator set. That's going to be your best bet for that if you can get it, because it's 5-star. And right now I have 2-piece Berserker set as well to increase critical rate. The only reason I have that on right now is just because I'm still trying to get good critical numbers, good critical rate. But as soon as I no longer need this 12% critical rate, which I'm working on building towards, I'm trying to replace it with Noblesse Oblige if I can. Because I've already got this and leveled it up, but I'm trying to get other pieces to pair it up with, and I'm going to have to do some shifting around. And at that point, that will help her Stellaris do even more damage while not punishing all of my normals. So it's kind of one of those balancing acts that I'm trying to build towards right now, so that I can probably revise my make a new late game Mona build guide video. Because right now the one I have right now is kind of focused for mid game and building you towards end game, which I probably should go back and edit the tag, like the actual title of that video, to make sure to specify that that's a mid-game focused build, and that I'll probably be making some, I want to say mostly minor revisements to it, but for late game. What bow besides Rust and Skyward can you use on Child? So Rust is definitely the one that a lot of people are recommending. Skyward obviously is going to be really good as a 5-star. It's kind of hard to go wrong. As far as other bows, I don't really know of any other great bows that are gonna work for a child. I think a lot of the other ones are gonna be mostly support focused. Let me pop over and just see what I have, and I can kind of review some of the thoughts that I might have on that. So Prototype Crescent actually wouldn't be bad, but because you're still getting attack percentage, but it's basically its primary point is to increase movement speed from aim shots, and you're not going to be probably using aim shots that much on child except for triggering weak point strikes against some of the larger enemies in the game. So could you get away with using it? Yes. Is it optimal? No. Energy recharge, if you're trying to build a burstier kit for him, might be okay, but I don't know that it's going to be ideal. And the same applies with Favonius Warbow. It does also have the added effect of increasing your critical or increasing your elemental recharge or elemental particles for a recharge bonus on your criticals, which is good, but at the same time it's still kind of leaning towards that burst build that I don't really think this character is geared up for anyways. He's kind of more of a consistent DPS, because as soon as you swap him into that second stance, that's kind of where most of his damage comes from, I think. Rust or Stringless for child? I would say Rust if I had to choose between the two, and that's what I'll be building him towards, is a Rust build. I think that because it increases your normal attack damage by 50%, and then you can just toggle into his E and just unleash crazy fast normal attacks, you're getting a side effect of the Rust that probably most people didn't anticipate, because his normals aren't very fast when he's using his bow, but when he swaps to swords, it's pretty crazy. Mona deals 20k on charge attack with Noblesse alone. My Mona deals 24 to 26k on charge attacks in the current build that I have with her right now. And with Stellaris, I'm doing, I think the upper end Stellaris I've seen like a 85k-ish. And average, if Diluc crits the follow-up, it's usually around 75 to 80,000. You think C6 Fischl is best support for Mona at the moment, but would be better if Fischl was fire. Yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from on that. My Fischl is C5 right now, but since we're getting a free one soon, she'll be making the adjustment to C6. And I'm going to be really curious to see how she fits into my party, although I don't know that it will be enough for me to justify bumping my Pyro Resonance on my standard party. But in some, I could definitely see possibly bumping it for some of the domains, quite possibly. Do I think Jean will be the next Animo Archon if Venti retires? Also, what is my opinion on Mona's new idle animation in the 1.0 update or 1.1 update? You know, I don't think so. I think that Jean would be maybe being primed more for like becoming one of the 4 winds kind of a situation, possibly, because we do know that there's one of the 4 winds are dead. So I think that they might be priming her for that. As far as replacing Venti, like I don't really know. I kind of don't think so. Just initially, I don't think so, but maybe. It could be one of those things where, you know, she could reluctantly take that kind of a position. I think she would be good at it. Child said that Ruin Guard is made by Abyss, right? Then Saritsa aren't related to the Abyss. I never see. One of the things that I've kind of assumed immediately is that the Ruin Guards were related to the Abyss. I don't know if that means necessarily that the Abyssal Order are making the Ruin Guards, or if the Ruin Guards were part of the ancient civilization that the Abyssal Order was born out of. So, you know, we got kind of like a little bit of one of those chicken or the egg kind of situations with those. I don't know that I necessarily believe that Saritsa has anything to do with the Abyssal Order, and if she does, it may be happening without her knowledge. If we get Zhao's story when he drops and he says he accidentally killed Chi-Chi, I don't think that he did that. I've seen a few people suggest that might be possible. I would be surprised if that turned out to be true, but I kind of doubt it. Isn't Archon is something made by Celestia? So the Archons are vision wielders who ascended to Celestia, and if they are then granted a Gnosis, they become an Archon. Am I planning on making future in-depth character builds such as Mona's? Will be incredibly helpful and would love to see a official one in the future. So right now, my plan, Techno, is not to necessarily make in-depth build guides for each character, but rather, if I make a build guide, it will be a guide that, if it's usable on multiple characters, I will discuss that, like I did with the Mona guide, because you can actually use that same build effectively on Mona. I do think that there's obviously, weapon differences and stuff like that that come into play that may or may not play for or against these builds. But I do think that I will be doing other build guide videos in the future, without a doubt. And my current Mona build guide was mainly built out of the fact that I was constantly getting questions about my current Mona build. So I decided to make a video for that so that I could kind of reference people in that direction as opposed to fielding that question as much as I was. But yeah, I probably will do some other build guides, but it won't be necessarily just focused on one character, but rather, okay, you can use this build on this character. This is what the video is built on because that's the character I have experience using the build on, but you should be able to use those builds on this, this, and this, and this. That's pretty much what my plan will be going forward with build guides in the future anyways, and that's pretty much how I presented the Mona one. Let's see. Now convinced one of Zhao's battles accidentally killed Chi-Chi. She remembers him but doesn't know why. His background states people have been caught in his path by mistake before. I need to reread Chi-Chi's story. I don't know if it's covered in there or not. I'm going to have to look into that a little more. Because if that's the case, that would be an awkward conversation on the on the horizon for sure. Is Noblesse or Maiden Beloved set better for Chi-Chi? You're going Healing Bonus, Helmet already, and Energy Recharge Goblet because you have Aquila Favonia on her. It gives her a lot of attack. So I think with Chi-Chi generally, I think Aquila, or rather Maiden, is actually quite good on her, especially if you can get them with attack bonuses. You'll be in a situation where you get maximum attack or maximum healing output from her if you can have both of those two things. Energy Recharge will help you bring up the burstier heal option from Chi-Chi, but she's never really going to be a great attacker, right? That's not really what that character is good at, but she is a really, really good healer if you build high attack. So you kind of get mediocre damage out of her while getting high healing for it. So she's kind of in an interesting spot. Future video idea. I should read the first comment on the Teyvat chapter storyline preview. It's about the complete lore of Teyvat and the most realistic so far. So actually one of the things that I'm planning on doing, Varun, is I'm planning on putting together a timeline video. So some of you may or may not have watched my very first video that I released, I think back in June, which was what we know about Teyvat. And that was pretty long ago now, and we've learned a lot since then. And there's been a lot of new information to come up since I made that video. So back, obviously when I made that video, we were, I think, just before CBT3 occurred. And so, yeah, there was a lot of gaps that have now since been filled in. So I want to reattack that as a concept, but what I want to do is actually do it in the format of a timeline. So then you can reference that video as a complete history of Teyvat from kind of it's as far back as we have information for until current. Can Anemo Traveler be a good main DPS with the right set? I think his best role is that of a support. I think you might be able to still make him into a good base attacker or physical attack damage character if you really choose to, but I do think that you'll be trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, as it were. I think that, with Anemo characters especially, trying to make them do something other than what they're primarily intended to do is actually just lowering their overall potential for, helpfulness in your party. You gotta go soon, quick. If you had a self-insert character in the game, what would be the vision, weapon, and place of origin? That's an interesting question. I hadn't really thought about that. Probably, I'd probably have to say it would be an electro catalyst, more than likely. If I had to pick a region, probably Fontaine, from what I'm seeing, just because, like, visually I think they have the most interesting styling. But at the same time, what we know of kind of like their styling seems to suggest they have a very like street performery magical background, which I think just seems interesting to me. So yeah, probably Electro Catalyst, Fontaine, if I had to guess. That might change in the future if like the Fontaine vision frames end up looking weird or something. I don't know, but we'll see. Let's see. Simon Diaz, you've been wanting Mona ever since you watched my streams. Finally got her and built her the way I do, and she's a ton of fun. Yeah, she's a great character. She's, I could definitely see over time, like, my main party having some form of rotation where, like, some characters get swapped out for this and some characters get swapped out for that. But Mona's kind of like my mainstay. Like, as far as, like, overworld exploration goes, I don't see her ever getting taken out of the party. Is Zhongli the most powerful Archon? I certainly think the implication is there that Zhongli was the most powerful Archon, and it definitely speaks tomes to like his character that he was willing to just give that up so long as Liyue was, ensured to be safeguarded already. So, but yeah, I do think that he was implied heavily to be the most powerful of the Archons. So it's definitely interesting that he is, effectively retired now. Which character's lore am I curious about right now? Probably, I don't know. Like, if I had to pick from all the characters who are currently playable, probably Child, because there's a lot of intrigue there about how he got his delusion, how he kind of ended up the person that he is today, because he definitely seems to have a softer side as per his main story quest, right? So he's definitely a complicated character, but if I had to choose characters who are not playable that I'm more curious about their background, it would be Zhongli, obviously. Like, I'm really, really curious to find out more about his background. That character's got, so much in his 6,000-year history that I am looking forward to finding out about. But if I, beyond characters who are from 1.1, I'm definitely also really curious to find out more about Ganyu, because she was there fighting in the Archon Wars too, so I'm very curious to kind of find out more about her as well. Does Venti's ult benefit from crit rate? You got an amazing viridescent crit rate hat, and you're wondering if it's worth it. So off the top of my head, I haven't done any experimentation with that, Robert, so I'm not sure. I think maybe you might want to try just throwing on if you have a different viridescent that doesn't have crit rate on it, you could then just put it on and see if it's producing more damage or less, and that should give you a pretty definitive result as to which one is actually better. Or whether or not it actually is having any impact at all. I appreciate it, Hylia. Let's see. For support, you don't necessarily need a maiden set for Jean. Go for DPS support. Go for Gladiator and Exile for energy recharge. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm using, Varun. So yeah, that's a good recommendation. Can I please explain the Gnosis? You're actually confused on what they are and how they function and how the Archons got them. So, the Gnosis are pretty interesting, and what we seem to understand of the Gnosis thus far is that when a Vision Wielder, now we know are called Allegenes, ascend to Celestia, they are capable of receiving a Gnosis. And when they receive this Gnosis, it makes them effectively an Archon. And so basically they use these in lieu of a vision for the manifestation of their abilities. So they don't actually have visions, they have those Gnosi in order to produce, I totally just leaned on that button accidentally. But yeah, so they have those to produce their elemental powers as opposed to a vision like everybody else. And I think the implication may be for characters like Venti and Zhongli who gave them up, they may have to go back to using their visions. I think it's probably presumable that they still have those. I don't think they would just, get rid of them or give them up or something, like just because they picked up a Gnosis. But I do think that, being the holder of that Gnosis may be indicative of who the Archon of a given element actually is. So, the Tsaritsa having taken both Venti and Zhongli's Gnosi may actually mean that those characters are not the Archon anymore, and they actually cannot grant visions of that element anymore. So right now we do know that the Baal, the Electro Archon, is not giving out Gnosi anymore, or not Gnosi, but visions anymore. So that kind of creates an interesting situation too, if you really think about it, because now it's quite possible that not only are Animo visions no longer being granted, but now we're not going to be seeing any more Geo visions being granted. We're not going to be seeing any Electro visions being granted because they're just not giving them out. So that definitely means that somebody's trying to artificially create a drought in vision production, which we don't really know why, but that does seem to be the case here. So it should be very interesting. Oh, the Skyward Atlas thing busted that. Interesting. So that's kind of how I feel about that situation. Okay, question. Ganyu mentioned she was half Keelan rather than half Adeptus, but seemed to imply they are connected or the same thing. Are you able to help clear that up? I think Keelan is her race, not necessarily. I think she is half Adeptus, but I think it was one of those situations where that's her half a race. So the Keelan are what has why she has horns, and that she actually is half Adeptus. So one of the people, one of her parents was Adeptus and the other was not. My thought on her saying that she's half Keelan as opposed to half Adeptus would mean to me indicate that the Keelan portion of her lineage was the part that was basically essentially human / not an Adeptus, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I interpreted that. You're confused. Okay, let's see. How do I deal with Oceanid? Currently putting Mona to 2nd DPS behind Klee since you can't get her to 80. I actually do bench Mona for Oceanid because it's just not a good character to go there because she can't do any damage to Oceanid. Because even, when Stellaris pops, that's still hydro damage. You will get damage bonus from the Omen, but that's really the only thing she can really bring to the table in that regard. So usually I swap Klee and Mona out for Chongyun and Fischl when I go to Oceanid. And yeah, Thomas, you don't need a Gnosis to manipulate the elements, but they do still need a vision to manipulate the elements. Did the fall damage with Jean really get nerfed? I haven't noticed any falling damage adjustments, but I guess I can check that out here in just a minute because I had gotten pretty used to a certain level of falling damage. So I can check that out here in just a second. Does Jean have enough DPS to carry a team with Venti, Sucrose, and Fischl for Abyssal Spiral? Or Abyssal Spire? You've got an awful lot of Animo damage in that party. I don't know that that's going to work out super great just because really the whole purpose of I guess it kind of depends on how you're using Fischl, but one of the other things to keep in mind about Animo damage is you're not it's called swirl, right? So you're not just swirling Animo with Electro, but if you have both Electro and another element on the field as well, so if you have Pyro and Electro on the field, it swirls the two of those together into Overload as well. So that's another thing to keep in mind, is that if you're not giving your Animo characters proper access to other elements, you may actually be underutilizing their kits. Keelan or Kiran, yeah, I'm not really sure how to say that exactly, are dragons from Chinese myth, and that's basically all you know. Yeah, that's basically the way I understood them as well. But yeah, we don't really have a whole lot of other information on them yet at this time, or at least we don't really know what their lineage is in Teyvat, or where even more of them may be. There seems to be a lot of, animal-like humans in Teyvat that don't necessarily have large representation active. Like, for instance, Sucrose is the only person we know of who has ears like hers. There do seem to be a number of cat-type people, though, like Diona and all, her father, and possibly one of the two characters from Fontaine in the timeline, or not the timeline, but the storyline trailer. Do I think the Tsaritsa isn't a villain? I think that the Tsaritsa may not be a villain in her mind. I think that she's definitely doing some things that are shady, though, but she might be very much working at this from from a best intentions perspective. Whether or not that ends up resulting in her doing bad things or not. Oh, yeah, no, they definitely did not nerf falling damage. That was a lot of damage. But yeah, so I think that maybe, it's likely that the Tsaritsa doesn't see herself as doing bad things, but it definitely doesn't mean that they're not bad, obviously. So it's kind of hard to say exactly where she falls in the grander scheme of things. Oh, okay, that was not great. Was really hoping that wouldn't happen. It's okay. I'll make it work. Hopefully. Usually when Jean dies, though, these things get screwy fast. Not gonna lie. We'll see how this goes. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, definitely gonna need to heal. Just gonna use some food on this one before something gets worse. There we go. That should help. Alright, there we go. And we'll go ahead and just finish these guys off, hopefully really quick here. Give them that 3 seconds of space. And none of those crit. Oh well. It's fine, I can just crit him for 30,000 with a charged hit. No big deal. That'll work. That was probably one of the higher charged hit that I've had. Didn't Gnosis just, isn't it just super powered visions? So, I don't know if that's necessarily the way I would look at them, but I mean, I guess that might be like an oversimplification of kind of what they are. Because I believe that, one of the other big things that a Gnosis also grants the Archon is the ability to grant visions to other people. So, without that, I suspect that they will no longer be able to do that. Oh god, what if the Electro Archon stopped giving out visions and went isolationist a year ago because the Tsaritsa has already taken the Electro Gnosis? So yeah, Kennedy, that's actually something that I've been wondering about since that was announced. Like, they're not giving out those, but they're also collecting everybody's visions. So that's the part that makes me think that that's not necessarily the case. Because like, if she can't give them out anymore, why would she be collecting all the ones that were given out? Something doesn't necessarily mesh there as far as their intention for giving out the Electro ability. So I don't know. It could go either way. I'm definitely behind on the chat a little bit, so I'm going to try to speed through here and catch up. I'm sorry if I miss any of you guys' questions. It's a little hard to keep up tonight, but I'm definitely going to try. But yeah, I'm going to bump forward ahead a little bit here, so my apologies if I miss some questions here. But I'm doing my best to try to keep up, but I have fallen behind. The other Harbinger that was seen in the photo with Keqing and Zhongli and the Traveler is confirmed 5-star coming to the game. The one that wears the circular hat. So what people are saying is that's Scaramouche, or Scaramoche. I don't know how to say that character's name, but it's one of the Harbingers. I think that some people are saying that, yeah, that's a confirmed 5-star coming to the game. I think that it's probably safe to assume that all of the Harbingers will end up being 5-star characters at some point. I think that that's probably pretty likely. Does Mona work well with Klee, and which other 2 teammates would I recommend? Do you think Venti goes well with them? Can I help, please? Yeah, so Klee goes really, really well with Mona. That's a character that definitely meshes well together with Mona, because you can get this, nice situation where you can just throw a bomb, switch, and charge attack, and every hit ends up being vaporized, as long as you kind of learn the cadence of how to pace it. So they definitely work off each other really well. You can kind of do that with Diluc, but obviously his has a bit of a time situation on it where, it'll go on cooldown, and if you don't, come back off it fast enough, you won't get the next hit of his E off, so you kind of have to, be really, really fast about it, where Klee is a little bit more forgiving for generating that reaction. From experience, I can tell you also that Venti does work well with those 2 characters as well, so the trick after that will just be trying to figure out which healer you really want to pair them with. I actually have had in that same pairing, had Jean as my healer, because that's who I'm still using as my primary healer now, and it gave me Animo Resonance, which I did really like as well. Complete BS, your AR-41 with no 4-star or 5-star. Oh, that's brutal, Jacob. I'm sorry to hear that. It sounds almost like it should be impossible. Have you bounced around between the different banners a little bit too much, or did you roll on the normal one and end up hitting weapon when you hit pity? How much crit rate is the minimum necessary for a catalyst DPS? Do the Archons really give the visions? You mean Zhongli was watching the Maid Noelle one day and gave it to her? Yeah, so that's the way we generally understand it to work right now. Is that the given Archon maybe who gives out the visions, and this is one of the things that also, if you think about it, makes more sense as well with regard to the Eternal Shogun. If she is no longer giving out Electro visions, and it's known that nobody's gotten them for a year, so it kind of seems like, it has to be that specific Archon giving out those visions, and if they're not actually doing that actively, then nobody will get them. Venti and the Saritsa wasn't fighting, at least before he went to sleep. The Snowy Peak are the remnant of Dvalin and the Cursed Dragon stuff. Yeah, that's Dragonspire. I do believe we're going to be seeing some form of that corruption still active on Dragonspire whenever that comes out in the next update. Can I show my Mona artifacts? Yeah, I can. So the way my Mona is currently set up is for 2-piece Gladiator, attack 18%, and for right now, as a kind of a mid-game setup, I have crit rate 12% from a 2-piece Berserker. But what I'm trying to do is get a 2-piece Noblesse Oblige set in these 2 slots to replace it. But if I have to kind of refinagle things to where if I can rework around it, because I do have this one already as well, which is a really good artifact. I was hoping it would roll a little bit more crit damage and crit rate, but everything went into attack and energy recharge instead. It is what it is. I really can't complain. It's still a great artifact anyways. I just can't use it yet because I don't have another Noblesse Oblige to pair it with. So I'm kind of, playing the waiting game as far as that goes. And then I'm also using this in the timepiece slot for now as well. But I'm also kind of working on this as well. And once I get this to level 20, I'm going to try this out in the slot and see how when Mona exceeds 175% energy recharge, it should, in theory, produce more damage than attack in this, because attack should be roughly equivalent to Hydro bonus damage, or sometimes Hydro bonus damage actually gives the edge over attack. And over 175% energy recharge, it actually should provide more Hydro bonus damage than a Hydro bonus damage artifact would at plus 20. So that which can only be achieved in the goblet slot. So for Mona, having if you are north of 175, like I said, in energy recharge, if you use energy recharge, it should, in theory, be basically the same thing as having a Hydro bonus damage timepiece, which is a thing that you actually cannot get. But actually, it should be one step better than that, because it should be producing more based in raw percentage, based on the math behind it, to really up her damage by a significant amount, which will also have the added benefit of increasing how frequently you can use her elemental burst. So yeah, I'm going to be skipping ahead again a little bit here because I'm still so far behind, so bear with me here. I'm going to be skipping through a little bit again. Leo Fom, you feel like the Saritsa is collecting them to make a Gnosis to give to the Cryo Archon, and for her to still keep the role of Archon in Inazuma. Okay, so you think that the Eternal Shogun is collecting all of the Electro Visions to give them to the Cryo Archon? So you think she's trying to make an artificial Gnosis? That's an interesting thought. That could be interesting if that's the way it's going. Well, I guess we'll see. Supposedly they're all being mounted on some kind of a statue or something. We don't really know a whole lot else about it right now, obviously, but yeah, we'll see. This is overstressed question, but what do I think of Sino? Any information about him? Yeah, I mean, right now we really don't have a whole lot of information about that character or their role. So yeah, I don't really have much to say about it right now. Pretty sure Dainsleif isn't a Harbinger. I've definitely seen Sarooster. Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of people trying to suggest that Dainsleif may be a Harbinger, but I think that might be a gross underestimation of his power and his role within the game. If Dainsleif is just one of the Harbingers, I think I would be kind of disappointed, because I think he's actually more than likely going to be somebody a great deal more powerful and in a position of much more importance than just a Harbinger. What weapon am I running on Mona? You're torn between Favonius Codex or the Wind Sith. Well, Favonius Codex, I believe, is energy recharge off the top of my head, which, again, as I was saying, if you can get it to be north of 175%, all of a sudden, that's a weapon that actually could become a good producer for her. Let me go to it really quick. I'm just trying to... I need to actually add that to the other one. Yeah, it's energy recharge. So yeah, if you can get greater than 175%, then yeah, you have a good deal. You have a good chance of making the Favonius Codex work in a way very similar to that of an attack-based weapon. So it could be good at late game. I don't think it's great for her at mid game, however. There's definitely better weapon options. I know that if you have the Royal Grimoire, then that's a really, really great weapon on her. I have to do some testing this week between the Royal Grimoire and the Skyward Atlas, which is the weapon I am currently using on her. And then at some point, I'm also going to level up the Black Cliff Amulet and start doing some testing with this as well. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Isn't it likely that whatever reason Zhongli gave his Gnosis to the Saritsa is the same reason that Raiden Shogun also has given it up, siding with her to guarantee their nation's survival? So it kind of depends, really. You say also, especially considering that Raiden is so connected with the concept of eternity, maybe she agreed to it before Zhongli for that reason. So yeah, I think that that's an interesting insight on that, Zolvik. I think that it's very possible that could be the motivation for it, but at the same time, it could be something. It could be something so much greater than that. She could be, knowing simply that somebody's coming for her Gnosis, or that they're trying to take her Gnosis, and she doesn't really want to give it up, and she's, kind of restricting all of these, the giving out of other Electro Visions to prevent that power from being given out, so that she can maintain that power for herself. Or she could be building some kind of, very powerful Electro Golem of some kind. This is, purely speculation, but I think it could go a million different ways. We just don't really have a lot of information to build a great theory as to why she's doing that just yet. Now, there actually could be information floating about, and that actually might be something that I explore in the future, prior to the update for Inazuma, where we'll actually presumably find out what her actual intent is from this, but only time will really tell. Is Skyward Atlas good for Mona? I would definitely say right now, just as this is a non-objective observation from me using it, because I haven't done any tests yet as far as damage of it versus damage on the Royal Grimoire. but I would have to say yes. I would have to say that the Skyward Atlas is very good for her. I don't have any meaningful complaints to make about it. You want MC to have his own element. I think that Recon Gamers, I think that there's a good chance that the MC could end up having his own element at some point in the future, but I think that that's probably going to be something more akin to like when they have gained all 7 of the elements and the main story of the game has been effectively completed. They may actually like regain their own inborn power, which may be effectively like having their own element, or maybe like the actual control of all of the elements simultaneously in some degree. How big do you think is Lumine's part in the Tsaritsa's plot? Is she the one behind this, considering the theory on 500 years apart? So I definitely think that Lumine's role in this is going to overlap to some degree with what's going on with the Tsaritsa, for sure. To what part, I can't say for sure yet. I think that there's definitely room for interpretation, just due to, you know, again, a pure lack of information going forward. But I definitely think that Lumine may be involved, for better or worse, in this plot, but we don't know whether or not, you know, they're working together is the biggest thing. We don't really have any meaningful information that would give us confirmation as to, you know, if is she working with her, is she working against her. I have some interesting thoughts on what Lumine's role may be overall anyways, because, you know, she's been there for probably 500 years at this point. She's working with the Abyss Order for reasons largely unknown and understood. I think probably that what her motivation could be for working with the Abyss Order is she may be feeling somewhat protective of them after watching them be transformed into monsters in front of her 500 years earlier. That's kind of what I suspect is going on. But again, you know, it's one of those things that you never really can tell until the story really comes to a head towards the end of the game. I'm really excited to kind of see where that goes, though. Oh man, I'm not getting any crits on these right now. Well, got an okay crit on that though, so I'll take that. Alright, you can stop. You definitely need to stop as well. Let me go ahead and stick this guy with some pyro attacks here for a second. There we go. That could have gone better. I guess it could have gone a lot worse too. Let's see. Is 1 to 2 crit rate, crit damage actually better than 50% crit rate and highest possible crit damage? So you're gonna definitely end up in this like consistency versus burst argument at that point. So 1 to 2 crit rate is definitely very effective though. However, I think that if you actually can max out your critical to, you know, as high as you can, to where it's at least very, very probable that you will crit, and then you can lean into it. So I would say probably north of at least 70% critical, or maybe 80% if you can do it. And then still increasing your crit damage beyond the 2-to-1 ratio at that point for crit damage versus crit rate, that you're probably going to see better numbers overall. And that's basically just how math works. So, you know, if you can stick to 2-to-1 and max out your crit rate to, you know, as close to 100% as possible, and have a consistent, you know, 200% crit damage, well, that's just your damage now. It's reliable. You can count on it all the time. So, you know, you end up, you know, if you break it and you go with, you know, a lower crit rate number with a higher crit damage number, you will have those situations like I'm having right now where I continuously am not critting my Stellaris proc with Diluc. So you kind of end up in that weird zone. Do I have any idea why water carries like Mona and Child have such high scaling on their Q? I mean, I can't really, you know, presume to speak for the developers of the game as to why they may decide to make choices like that. I suspect that, you know, they know that the way hydro characters are probably going to be used in the game, they know that you know, they're going to be frequently being utilized in conjunction with pyro characters as well, and that people are going to be, relying on, vaporize as a result of that. So I think that, they're kind of, building burst characters in the hydro element for a reason, because they're maybe not necessarily your go-to base reaction characters. They're not necessarily the best characters to be building with elemental mastery in my eyes. So that's really the only reason I can think that they're kind of leaning that way. Which enemy in this game do I hate the most? Simon Diaz, I think the enemy I hate the most has got to be the Abyss Mages overall, or if not, then the Fatui Skirmishers after they put their shields up, because they're just so annoying. Once they get that shield up, it's because of the way my party's built, I frequently end up in these situations where, I don't have the element I need on hand to kind of squelch what's happening. Okay, I can't even see him, so all I can do is just kind of aim at him aimlessly now, because he went invisible somehow during my elemental burst. There he is. But yeah, so I would have to say if I had to pick one, yeah, it would probably be the Abyss Mages, though, just because they can be really, really irritating, and I think I might hear that. I think I might be sometimes hearing that sound that they make when they start putting their shield back up and dancing around in my sleep now. It's like a nightmare sound to me. The other day I heard that sound come out of my wife's computer when she was playing to my right, and it kind of like gave me a shudder. I was like, oh god, what's happening? So yeah, probably Abyss Mages, I think, pretty decisively. Is it rather hard to think, since the legend has been there even before Lumine? So you think that the story of Paimon and the principle of, or Dainsley with the principle? I'm not sure if I understand what you're trying to say there, Rena. If you can clarify, I'll see if I can reattack that. Which better timepiece stat for Mona? Energy recharge or attack percent? So yeah, that's actually Fadiat. That was something I was actually just talking about a minute ago. If you can get better than 175% energy recharge, the scaling from the math suggests that energy recharge should effectively give more energy, or should produce more hydro bonus damage at that point than you would get with a plus 20 hydro bonus goblet. So in theory, energy recharge for Mona at endgame, if you can get north of 175% energy recharge, should be better. Right now, I have not been able to officially test that, but I have done some math on it just to kind of see if, like, if the math would support that possibility, and it does. So yeah, I would go out on a limb and say, yeah, you should be safe for making that change if you're in that position. I'm working towards making that change myself. I just haven't had the availability to do it just yet, just due to a lack of resources. I do have a timepiece that I'm working on leveling up slowly so that I can actually officially test that. But yeah, right now the math suggests that it will work. What is a good team to use? You're only missing Kuching and Klee. So yeah, that means you definitely have good depth overall. I mean, obviously, if you're only missing Kuching and Klee, any of the characters that I have going here, obviously, I'm going to, highly recommend, especially pairing Mona with a Pyro Resonance and any two good Pyro characters. So, Diluc pairs nicely with her as well. So it's kind of hard to go wrong with, but it also kind of depends on what kind of weapons you have at your availability. Weapon availability is a huge impact, or has a huge impact on your ability to build a character in the most effective means possible. Let's see. Kolhan, I think Abyss Mages are from MC's World because it says Your Highness. I think that it just says Your Highness because Lumine is, the newly announced queen of or princess of the Abyssal Order. I don't know if they're from their world or anything. I kind of suspect that no, they're not. I suspect that they were actually just the transformed former members of the ancient civilization, just like that of the Hilly Churls, and this is why they're all wearing masks. Either they were transformed and have always worn the masks, or it's some form of shame that's been passed down through their generations. If they even have generations, we don't even know, because it seems like they may be locked in time and that they don't age and they just have been stuck like this ever since their first arrival. Let's see. Senora, our Harbinger's number 8, and she actually, that strong, can't imagine how strong the first is. So, you know, I don't necessarily know if their number, if their number within the Harbingers is correlative to their power. Because Child is number 11, and he's said to be one of the most powerful of the Harbingers. So it's kind of an interesting situation there. But I don't necessarily think there's any correlation there, personally. Bennett and Mona. Yeah, Bennett and Mona is a nice combination. I've definitely seen some people work some good magic with that. Personally, the only reason I'm not doing it is because I have a Wolf's Gravestone, and I'm trying to use that to maximize damage opportunities. How do I think about Ningguang sacrifice the Jade Chamber to defeat Osil? You think it's a genius idea. Jade Chamber was the symbol of power, and now it's the savior of the city. Yeah, you know, I actually was really, really intrigued by the choice that Ningguang made to do that. And I think that it was that perfect, like, gesture on her part, that, you know, the actual city of Liyue was more important to her than the thing that was supposedly the most important thing in her life. So yeah, that was a really interesting choice. I really, really liked how they kind of built that situation. And, you know, obviously Rex Lopus approved of that, because that was kind of the thing that made him realize that, yeah, like, maybe Liyue was going to be fine even in his absence. So yeah, I actually thought that was a really good idea, and I'm glad they kind of went that direction. It was one of those self-sacrificial moments that I really appreciated. Aren't the Abyssal Mage kind of said that they're trying to open up a path to Lumine's homeworld or something? You kind of remembered that they mentioned something about that. Yeah, so that's one of the weirdest mysteries to me in the game right now, is that they said something about, you know, when, like, they bring her home back or something, whatever that means. We have no context to really figure out what exactly they were trying to say when they did that, or kind of what they actually are working towards. That was a really confusing line. I don't really pretend to understand kind of what the broader implications may have really been about that. We can kind of only really guess, but we'll see. I'm definitely curious to learn more about where they're going to go with that. I don't think I got that in the order that I wanted, but I'll take it. God, I keep getting non-crits from these. It's kind of infuriating. Yeah, her sacrifice seemed to touch some of the Adeptus. Some of the other were still relatively unimpressed until the conversation that took place afterwards. But I think that some of the Adeptus have just been away from, you know, humanity just a touch too long, and they had kind of lost some of their general empathy. But I think that it ended up, you know, all working out kind of for the best at the end. So we'll kind of see how it continues to progress from here. I definitely don't think that the Adeptus' role in the story is over yet. I mean, obviously we know that the Lantern Rite's going to be involving Zhao. So he'll definitely have some kind of role to play in the future still, but I would assume that other Adepti will as well. Let's see, is it possible to reach AR60? I think people have done some math on whether or not it's possible to reach AR60, and I want to say that they were saying it will take over a year or something, just based on the math of the values that we will have to obtain to do that. So yeah, it should be possible in theory to do it, but it's just going to take some time. What banner did I get Diluc from? Actually, Vid Crimson, I got Diluc from the Child banner on my very first roll. I was really surprised to see the gold come up so quickly, and I thought, okay, cool, you know, I skated easy. I got Child right away, so it's not going to be a big deal. I can, you know, hold on to most of my primos for Zhongli, but I ended up getting Diluc right away instead. But I still got Child pretty quick too, honestly. I got him on my 40th, so really, like, my luck was pretty good on that one, so I was pretty happy overall. How much crit chance and crit damage does my Mona have? I think I'm around 50, 120, I think, right now. Or 52 and 123, if I had to say off the top of my head. Yeah, 52, 123.9. So it's a pretty good balance. She's a little bit higher than the 2 to 1. She's kind of like, 2.1 to 1 or something like that. But yeah, I'm still working on getting that north of 175% energy recharge, because I think that that's really going to be very effective in boosting my Mona's overall output towards levels that, probably a lot of people may not have realized would be possible, but we'll see. I definitely have mine set up to, be a continual producer of damage, not just a Stellaris, bot like a lot of people are trying to build her to be. The hidden corners where the god's gaze does not fall. Yeah, that's an interesting line that that Danes has in that trailer. I definitely feel like that was a very... I feel like it was a reference towards the Abyss. I really do. I think that was referring to the Spiral Abyss. Towards the Moon Spire, probably. Does the Fatui have any connection to the Abyss Order? I don't really think so. Honestly, if I had to put money on it, I would say no, but I could be wrong. But I haven't seen anything to me that would indicate a direct connection between the two. Only things that, could be like deemed as relatively coincidental. Were you two hoping for Zhongli to come in the battle at the end and be the hero and show his true self? I really was. But honestly, on reflection after the fact, I'm kind of glad he didn't, because I think that the role that the twist that they ended up having, I think was a lot more interesting than just Zhongli showing up and saving the day. Instead, he was kind of saving the day behind the scenes, or I don't even know if that's necessarily the way to say it, because he actually kind of caused everything that was happening. But really, he was just trying to set Liyue up for success in the long run, which I think is a twist that nobody saw coming, that, he would be actually, setting a contract to give away his Gnosis to the Tsaritsa without, a fight. I thought was a really, really interesting twist. Oh, come on. Okay, there we go. That thing, I should have just thrown her in the water. That's what I should have done. Whatever. I sometimes forget I can do that. You got Deona and Child in a 10 pull. Nice. Yeah, actually, Fleur, I in my Diluc pull, my very first 10 pull, I did get Deona in that pull as well. So that was actually really, really surprising that not only did I get Diluc in that first pull, but yeah, I did get Deona as well. You got Klee first pull on her banner and Venti in his second, and it's not just streamers who have good luck. Yeah, I mean, I've had good luck in some and bad luck in others. You never really can tell. Yeah. My Mona's artifacts is equipped with full damage bonus, no pyro. No, I have pyro, or not pyro, but hydro bonus damage. I have a hydro bonus damage goblet. Would I play C3 Mona just the same as playing a C0 Mona? Well, yeah, I mean, my current Mona is C0, but yeah, I don't think I would change the way I would approach the character if she was C3. I don't think I would make any meaningful change to my playstyle with her. It would just kind of help make her better than she is already. I mean, yeah, okay, it's going to make her Stellaris better, but I honestly, I think building her as a Stellaris bot is underselling her kit. So I really, yeah, I don't think I would really change my approach to the character at all. You got 2 times Child and 11 rolls. That's pretty insane. That's phenomenal luck. Honestly, like, the one thing that I really have had is, if I can, I don't want to state this as a complaint, because I really shouldn't complain, because I've actually had pretty good luck to where I've achieved a pretty good character roster already. I'm only missing, Chi-Chi and Keqing out of the total character roster right now, but I have not gotten much for constellations at all in my 5-star depth. So my Jean has 2, my Venti has 1, that's it. None of my other 5-stars have any constellations. And meanwhile, I've got you know, my Wolf's Gravestone has 3 refinements, and I think my Jean's Skyward blade has 2. So, I mean, like I said, I can't really complain. I have gotten some other, you know, good things. I just haven't necessarily picked up everything I wanted when I needed it. But, you know, it's really just talk. It's not really a big deal. I can't really complain. I don't really even necessarily think constellations are necessary for the game's content anyways. I think they're nice to have, but they're certainly not necessary. Okay, this is going to be an interesting one. Oh, God, ow. That almost went bad quickly. Here, let's just do this really quick. Give them the 3 seconds. I don't know why you have to wait 3 seconds before you follow this up. I wish you didn't have to, but... Oh, that was a 98,000 crit on that, so that was fairly ridiculous. So yeah, that shows the pure damage potential of the Wolf's Gravestone on on Mona's Stellaris. That was, yeah, 98,000, so I'm pretty happy with that. And then, you know, she still sets me up for huge crits from her normals and from her charged attacks, because I've had some charged attacks hit north of 30,000 as well. You think the rates after the update is pretty high for some reason. You got Child on your 78th pity, or 78th pity and Diluc after 9 more pulls. Interesting. Yeah, that's not bad either. Yeah, you pulled them pretty quick. You think when MC we will harness the 7 element, maybe it will awaken his true power. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I think is going to happen as well. Do I think the Traveler is regaining his original power or receiving powers from the 7? So, you know, that's an interesting question. I think that the story says that he's getting more powerful, but I don't know if he says any... They've not really mentioned anything about whether or not he's just regaining his former power or gaining a new one. The story also indicated early on that Venti was aware that the Traveler had absorbed the Animo power from the Statue of the 7, which... I don't know if that means that Venti wasn't just aware, but allowed it to occur, as if maybe he could have blocked it. And by the same coin, does that then mean that Zhongli also was aware and allowed it to occur when the Traveler resonated with the Geo statue? If that is the case, then that probably will also mean that when we get to Inazuma, that we may not immediately get the Electro ability for the Traveler from the Statues of the 7 right away. We may actually have to resolve that quest line, or at least get far enough through it to where the Eternal Shogun is, you know, okay with allowing the Traveler that ability. But that might be born out of desperation. We don't know. But I do think that there's definitely some deeper implications on that whole line of thinking. What do I think of the Traveler using Geo and Ammo in his fight with Child? I'm not sure. Geo and do you mean Geo and Animo in the fight with Child? I'm trying to understand what you mean by the question. Are you saying like as if like canonically, as opposed to us using our character comp that we have to fight Child, it was instead the Traveler using the 2 known elements that he has in just a fight one-on-one against Child? I mean, if that is what the question is, I mean, obviously, you know, the way the story worked is it's, you know, canonical that, you know, the Traveler was able to prevail over Child despite the fact that he used this foul transformation, or foul legacy transformation. So... you know, obviously that's already pretty definitive on its own, because that's the way the story worked it. But I think that, you know, like, I think that it's probably easy to assume that, you know, off screen that the Traveler may have abilities that he's capable of using that we're not seeing. You know, or manipulating those abilities in ways that we're not seeing. So, you know, I think that it's able to be implied that, yeah, he should have been able to do that and, you know, maybe not easily, but you know, he would be able to do it again if he, you know, if he had to. You're at Techno, you're at AR-35 and using Mapamare on Mona. Was hoping for a better weapon. Should you try your luck wishing on the weapon banner? So I want to say the only catalyst available on the current weapon banner is, or at least the ones with rate up, is the one that's basically kind of geared towards Geo characters. So I don't know that if this would be the one to try wishing for. Why are you not throwing it at the enemy? There you go. So yeah, I don't know if this would be the time to do it. There may be other banners that might give you better luck. I'd have to look at the banner again. I haven't actually rolled on this current weapon banner, to be honest with you, so I don't remember what the 4-star weapons are that are rate up outside of Rust. So I'll take a look at that here in just a second after I kill this thing, but he's kind of being a pain. There we go. Let's take a look. It's okay, Eye of Perception. Huh. So I don't necessarily think Eye of Perception is bad. I think it's just strictly kind of a worse version of Skyward Atlas. So, could you do okay with it? Yeah, probably. And if I had to choose between Eye of Perception and Mapamare for the kind of builds that I would use Mona for, it would be Eye of Perception all day long. I don't really honestly think that Mapamare is a very good weapon for Mona because it builds her into support. And I don't think support is her best role. I think it just, I really, like I've said it 1,000 times, I think at this point, is it basically just undersells her kit. Because, you know, at that point, you're pretty much just popping onto her to use Stellaris or to occasionally toss a lure. Like, you're not really relying on any of the agility that she brings to the table, any of really the major benefits that she brings to the table. Yeah. The 4 stars Eye of Perception. Yeah, that's what I was just looking at. Oh, okay, that was not the character I was trying to use that for, but okay. Do I think Zhongli is going to be worth it? Yeah, Levantine, I definitely think that Zhongli is going to be worth it. Just from what little we do know of him and what little that I've heard about him, I think that he's going to be a lot like Noel in the sense that if you build the character right, he basically won't be able to die. But I think that he'll also have the added benefit of making all of your other characters totally unable to die. I think best case scenario, though, which might be a little bit unrealistic, though, for the masses in general, is that if you want to get the best damage output out of him, you might want to also try really hard to get the spear that will come with his banner, because that spear is going to, I think it increases his damage output by 100%. So that's pretty substantial for obvious reasons, and I think that that's going to be, you know, definitely his best case scenario. Do I think it's possible for the Tsaritsa to be tricking everyone into thinking she's a bad person, but she's actually stealing the Gnosis so she can become powerful enough to beat the unknown god? So yeah, I do think that there's at least some possibility of that actually being her motive. And I'd be lying if I said I hadn't already thought that maybe that might be why. But she's not exactly known for her compassion towards her people either, though. So I don't know. I feel like it could kind of go either way with her still. We don't really know for sure. But yeah, it could definitely very well still go either way. Oh, that was really close. Let me get in there now that that's over. That was a big hit. And another one. The Dongo Witch. Nice theory. Yeah. Yeah, I think that, that there actually could be some merit to that being the Tsaritsa's overall goal. But I don't know. Like I said, we do know that she's not necessarily been, you know, great to her people, so I don't necessarily think that she's any kind of a actual likable saint person. I think that she's definitely going to be a little rough around the edges one way or the other. Is it better to use 4-star artifact with good substats or 5-star artifact that has pretty trash substats? I would lean towards the 4-star with good substats because you're probably, well, I mean, it kind of depends, right? So like if you have a perfect 4-star that has really good substats, then yeah, that. But if you have a 5-star that, well, I mean, if that 5-star has 0 of the substats that you want, then yeah, I would use the 4-star all day long. But if you have 2 decent substats on that 5-star and it levels those particular substats up, then there's not really a compelling reason to not use the 5-star, especially since you can get an additional 4 levels on that 5-star compared to the 4. Do I think there will be someone like Solomon in this game with how the Archons are named after his 72 demons? So, yes, I do. And I think that that's probably one of the kind of like the hidden meanings of the game right now, is that I think that that might be kind of one of the broader purposes that they're trying to build into the story, is like that whole mystery of the demons and kind of how all that's working together. We kind of have this working idea that, you know, maybe there's some kind of greater overall power at work here in Teyvat, and that there's like this order or contract, if you will, that's, you know, kind of controlling all things. And if a civilization kind of steps out of line, maybe they get destroyed. And that could be one of the other motivations for the Sustainer. Right, just so because I've made this theory that says that she's the time god doesn't necessarily mean that I am completely sold on it either. I think that there's great evidence that points in that direction, that she could be this god of time, or very possibly she actually could be, you know, exactly what she said she was, the sustainer of heavenly principles, but she does have some ability to manipulate the threads of space and time, and as such has been regarded as a god of time, as a gross oversimplification of her actual purpose. So, yeah, I do think that the 72 Gosha demons situation does have merit for the whole, like, Solomon type situation. Do I believe the last boss we will fight is the character's twin? No. I actually think that we'll probably confront her sometime well before the end. I really do. I think that we'll probably, you know, somewhere towards the apex of the game, we will have that encounter. But I think that the final encounter will probably be the Sustainer. Just because that to me would be more poetic, you know, because, you know, you kind of finish where it all began kind of situation, and I would be willing to bet that that's where they're probably planning to go with it if I had to put money on it. There are 2 unknown twins from the 1.1 update video showcase. Are they included on the Harbinger? I'm not sure if I understand the statement that you're making on that off the top of my head. Let's see. Do I think Razer is the best 4-star DPS? I think that he can definitely be built to produce good, consistent DPS, but if I had to, like, crown a single 4-star DPS as the best, I would probably say Fischl. But again, it kind of also depends on what kind of constellations you have at your availability as well, because that also adds layers of complication to that kind of a calculation. There's a lot of variables to consider in that regard. Not many people are well versed in Gnosticism, and there isn't a distinctive, definitive Gnostic faith that can be traditionally identified. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a, I don't want to say it's untreaded water, but it's definitely not something that is explored super often. You imagine the Electro God look like a Raiden May from Honkai Impact 3. Yeah, you know, a lot of people are saying that, and I think that it's possible. We'll see, only time will tell. Any thoughts on new Catalyst Memory of Dust? So my understanding of the new Catalyst is that it's probably going to be really good for for Ningguang. I think that that's probably its main purpose, was for it to be used on her. And if you have a good Ningguang built up, then you could probably make really good use out of it. I think it might be one of those weapons that might be able to be used to help really heighten that character to a new level that she probably couldn't attain before. Go to Luoha Pull, please. Fight the 3 Cryo Hydro Abyss Mages. Yeah, I may head over there in a little bit. I think that was one of the places I tend to farm anyways. You love C6 Fischl plus Mona deletes enemies real quick. Yes, it does. It absolutely does. Support DPS Fischl, stringless for sure to start, and Elemental Mastery if that's kind of the way you're trying to set her up. Because you want, the character that's initiating the reaction. So, you'll have Oz behind Mona shooting, adding, these electro charge damages. So you're going to want a lot of Elemental Mastery if you're building her as a straight support character to Mona. If you're building her as a secondary DPS, then there's a lot of different factors that can play, but you can build her exactly the same way as you would build Mona and still get very, very good damage out of her. And I know somebody who's actually doing, I think, a similar build to that on their Fischl, but they have her paired up with Xingqiu, and they're getting a lot of good damage output from that combination, like surprisingly good damage output from that combination. And that's relying on just 2 4-star characters in tandem. So there's definitely still merit to some of these 4-star combinations compared to maybe some of the higher burst output potentials that you might see on 5-star characters. I think that you can definitely establish really good, consistent damage builds to where you can still pretty much just lawn mow all your enemies without any kind of an issue. I actually do, Sylvia Lozano, I actually have a video that reviews what my Mona build is. It's not obviously completely, well, it's basically current because I am still using the same concept, but I'm not necessarily using the same combination of artifacts that I had in that video. But basically it's a 2-piece gladiator attack bonus and a 2-piece berserker for crit bonus. But I'm working towards dropping the critical bonus for 2-piece Noblesse Oblige. But I'm not going to do that until I can maintain at least 50% or better crit rate without the Noblesse Oblige bonus. So that's kind of the tall order of the day for me right now, is that it's going to probably take me 1 or 2 decent artifacts with some lucky rolling in order for me to produce that. And it just hasn't been happening for me at this time. What if Celestial Goddess will force Lumine to kill Aether on the last act of the story or reunite? I think that that's actually kind of a, I kind of feel like by the time we get to the Sustainer, that whole situation will have already resolved itself. That's kind of what I expect from it anyways. You have Winged Jade Sphere. Is that good for Zhongli? So, I mean, there's not really, I don't think, enough information regarding Zhongli right now for me to recommend a definitive build for him. I haven't actually played on him at all either. I feel like the Winged Jade Spear won't be bad. It's crit rate. So you could definitely kind of build him into something pretty effective. I do already have that as well myself and was kind of planning on trying it if I don't get the actual weapon that comes with the banner that he'll be paired with. But I do suspect that that weapon will be better for him by leaps and bounds compared to this one. But if you do already have this, I don't think it will be bad. You'll definitely be able to build into like a primary DPS type situation with him if you do. So yeah, I don't necessarily think that you'll be in a bad position at all. You don't think Lumine is possessed by the Sustainer? I don't either, Moogie. I think that Lumine definitely has obviously some kind of manipulation going on in her mind, like something's not right. But I don't think she's being controlled by the Sustainer. Okay, let's see. Do I think the Sustainer is Kiana Kaslana? I kind of do. I really do. I think I would honestly be more surprised at this point if it turned out not to be. I think that there's definitely reasonable evidence to suggest beyond just the visual that she may be Kiana, but we don't have any actual true, concrete evidence to suggest that at this moment. But I do think that it's probable. Do I think MiHoYo will continue the trend of making Archons playable units and make Bal, Raiden, Electro Archon a summonable unit? Probably. I honestly, I would be more surprised, again, if they don't. I suspect that we will be able to play as all of the Harbingers and all of the Archons as time goes on. You're crying yourself to sleep if they killed the other twin. Yeah, I feel that. Knowing kind of the past of MiHoYo, I think we probably should be preparing ourselves for some kind of tragedy in the late portions of this game, if not even sooner. There's definitely some characters that I'll be surprised if they survive all the way to the end of the story. But hopefully I'm wrong. I wouldn't be unhappy if I'm wrong. If MiHoYo decides to, use the basic plot armor for some of the characters, it won't make me unhappy, but it definitely won't be like they're not taking any risks at that point in terms of storytelling. There's not anything wrong with that, but it doesn't necessarily blow minds either. So should we be preparing for Paimon to turn evil, though? No, I don't really subscribe to the probable Paimon evil theories. I really don't expect that that's going to happen at all. She's got a few visual things that suggest some kind of connection to wherever the Sustainer is from, but outside of that, we don't really have anything to suggest that she's actually evil. If anything, I would tend to lean more towards Paimon being a disembodied, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a disembodied portion of the Sustainer's psyche. Like, when the Sustainer was sealed, or if the Sustainer was sealed after that initial encounter 500 years earlier, parts of her personality may have been sealed and split. And it could then be possible that Paimon is one piece of that, but she's not actually evil, and as a result she is her own person and is not capable of being that. It's also possible that the Sustainer could have already been a part, in part a slightly more perturbed portion of a different god. It could go any way, really. There's all sorts of different possibilities that could roll into. Do I have any ideas about Kinaraya? So we don't really have a lot of information about Kinaraya, other than we do know that Kaya is originally from Kinaraya, and he says that it's, he doesn't really like to talk about it because there's nothing there but sinners. So he doesn't really have anything great to say about his home, and I definitely feel that he resents his father for putting him in the position of spying on Diluc's family and Mondstadt for Kinaraya, which is why the two of them don't really speak on great terms anymore. But we've really only got some veiled information out there of things that people seem to think might be related to Kinaraya, but nothing really concrete at this time. Is it possible that the Sustainer trap Aether and Lumine in Teyvat to help her fight some kind of demon lord-like enemies she can't defeat? If that's the case, why separate them? No, I don't really think that the Sustainer trapped them in Teyvat for her own benefit. I think that she was much more interested in absorbing whatever power they had and then leaving them on Teyvat below to be turned into monsters. That's what I think she intended their fate to be. If you do a slow-mo on the moment where your chosen MC is attempting to fight the Sustainer's attack, she definitely has a reaction of surprise to whatever kind of kickback occurred in that final moment before the MC is, you know, encapsulated in the cubes. It definitely suggests that, you know, what happened there was not what she intended. If they kill off Diluc after you farmed all those resistance books, you're going to be very upset. So I think, honestly, if there is a single character in this game that I would expect to overextend and end up dead as a result, it would probably be Diluc. But I would not expect that to impact your ability to play him at all. But it would be a bummer. I wouldn't be happy about it, that's for sure. You really don't trust Paimon's judgment right now. You kind of want her to shut her mouth lately. I don't really. I definitely wouldn't think Paimon will die. I think that character is absolutely going to have plot armor. She's way too integral into the game's menus. Like, they couldn't just like kill that character and then have her pop up on every one of these little menus and all this stuff and just have her all over the screen all the time without like desensitizing you to the emotion that they intended in that moment. I think that wouldn't work as well. Jean might die. Yeah, you know, I've thought that, but why even put that in the air? that had better not happen. That would be terrible. That would just be terrible. No. Take it back. Just take that back. Let's see. Jean will type first. No. Take that back. Just erase that from existence. Honestly, it pisses you off how Signora didn't even say anything to the Traveler, really, and Zhongli didn't care about Venti's Gnosis being taken. So, I don't know if I would... See, here's the thing, is I don't know that he doesn't care about Venti's Gnosis being taken. He went into a contract with the Tsaritsa, agreeing to give his own Gnosis to her. So to me, that suggests that he knows what her plan is, because, you know, if he wasn't going to get anything beneficial out of it, he wouldn't have done it. And if he thought that Liyue was going to be in any danger whatsoever as a result of her plan, I also don't think he would have done it. So I definitely don't think that he doesn't care that it was taken. I think that he may believe in whatever her eventual purpose is. Everyone wants to have a stand-in for themselves in games. What would mine be in Genshin Impact? What would they look like? What would they do? So actually, I had a question a little bit like that earlier this evening. And while I can't necessarily say for sure what the character would look like, I definitely know that it would more than likely be an electrocatalyst user. And more than likely would be from the Fontaine region, which would suggest probably a certain kind of style to the character, but I think that's about the extent of what I've considered on a personal level at this point. Yeah, maybe kind of like a cross between like a Zhongli visual and characters who are in Fontaine. What is the possibility that all characters will get screen time in the main story or character stories? I think it's very probable that all of the characters are going to get screen time through one way or another over time. I think that they very much intend for all of these characters to have screen time. They've spent a lot of time writing deep stories for every character in the game, and I suspect one of the reasons why they're doing that is so that they can continue to establish, you know, deep stories for all these characters, and actually having the events of the game be impactful on those characters and on you as the viewer when they occur. Beidal's elemental skill is OP. Any pyro is OP. I'm not sure if I understand what you're saying on that one. Is official getting one with the event? Yeah, we're getting a free official with the upcoming event. Zhongli obviously knows about what she is going to do. He is way stronger than the Tsaritsa. Him giving the Gnosis would have meant Zhongli approved it. Yeah, and that's exactly how I feel about it too, Rena. I don't think he would have done it unless he thought that everything was going to work out for Teyvat's benefit. I really don't. Zhongli definitely strikes me as somebody who was protective of Liyue for sure, but I think generally protective of humanity as a whole. if he thought anything bad was going to come of it at all, I don't think he would have done it. And he was intentionally, obviously, cryptic at the end in regard to not telling you what it was that he got out of it, because he wants you to question the Tsaritsa yourself. Which is kind of his way of saying, you know, go talk to her. So he wants us to go see her as well. Zhongli is an Archon. You thought he was a theory? No. Jose Martinez, I guess this is in spoiler territory, but no, he's confirmed the Geo Archon now. Rina Aria, no, Alice is not dead. So far as we know, she's just a traveler, or not a traveler, but an adventurer. She is not in Mondstadt at the moment, and she left her, she left Klee with, with the Knights of Favonius while she's away, but she's not dead. Anonymous. You just want to stop in and say, I shouldn't base my lore videos on English translation because it's wildly inaccurate. So here's the thing. I don't agree that the English dub is cringy. I actually rather enjoy the English dubs, so that's going to be completely from an angle of being, opinionated, but I actually really like what they've done with that, and I think that they've done a really good job at trying to make it good. But as far as basing my lore videos on the English translation, it's really all I can do. I do have access to people who can do translations, but I'm not going to sit back or sit on my hands and wait for somebody else to do all my work for me. Unfortunately, also, I do not know how to read Chinese on a personal level, and I'm too busy in my actual life outside of the game and this channel to actually sit down and try to learn that myself right now. So going to the Chinese version to absorb all of the content is just not feasible for me at this time. I understand that there are some culturally different terms and context to some things that are introduced through some of the items in the game, but it's just not realistic for me to attack it from that angle. So that's not something that's going to be done right now. Yeah, Young, I agree. Like, the English dub for this game, I honestly think is actually quite good. I've been playing, games that have come from the East for a long time at this point, and I've seen a lot of games with a wild variation in quality. And I think that Genshin's English dubs are some of the better that I've seen from Eastern ports to the West. I really, really do. And I will die on that sword. Have I tested Blackcliff Amulet on Mona? No, not yet. I do have it and intend to, but I do not have it at this moment. Jean is acting, so who is the real? Yeah, it's Varka. We don't really know a whole lot about Varka, but we do know that he is the actual Grandmaster. Thinking of running Zhongli and Ningguang, who else do I think would fit in that team comp? Well, obviously you're going to need a healer, more than likely, but you could actually fit a less bursty healer into a team comp like that, at least in a lot of situations, just because Zhongli is going to produce for you so many opportunities to just not take damage. That character is really good at keeping your team at full health. Like, his abilities are really geared towards that. How is it that Diluc's father was seen with Venti before he became an Archon, but Vanessa only befriended Venti after he became an Archon? Is Vanessa Diluc's sister? So I do think that there's a possibility that Vanessa and Diluc may share some lineage, especially considering the fact that Diluc seems to be the only Mauratan person, like the only person of Mauratan descent left in Mondstadt at this point. But I don't think Diluc's father was seen with Venti before he became an Archon. That person that was, in that early scene might have been intentionally meant to look kind of like Diluc to imply that there is some kind of, lineage connection there, though. But we also know that there's actually just a place where there was previously a lot of Mauratan people, and it may be indicated after the liberation of Mondstadt that a lot of the Mauratan people may have just left. And obviously Vanessa didn't leave, but she did ascend. But we also don't know if she had any family before she did that either. We just don't have enough background information on her outside of the manga, the first issue of the manga. You think especially the Liyue chapter was really good in dubbing department. You love the acting for Child. Yeah, I think that Child's voice acting was done really well. He brought a lot of emotion to the role, and he brought like, you could definitely tell that like that the character was very like, they did a good job at bringing across like that general like theme of being very menacing that I think that they were going for. Yeah, that whole scene, like the whole last like hour of the 1.1 story was so epic. And it was really, to me, one of the more epic gaming experiences that I can recall over like the last 4 or 5 years. I was really blown away at the level of quality from the overall English dub and for the actual events that took place overall, and the care that they took in crafting that scene overall was just, I loved it. It was really great. Who do I think are good supports for Ningguang main DPS, since Geo does not have damaging elemental reactions? So that's one of the issues in the game right now, is that Geo doesn't really have a lot of great synergy. And maybe that's not the best word. Maybe it is the best word. Like, Geo is basically there to provide damage and shields. And the shields innately provide synergy to the rest of your team, but they don't necessarily give you anything, you know, above and beyond. And you're not going to get any kind of really crazy damage reactions, obviously, either. But Geo characters as a whole can actually produce really good damage if built correctly anyways. There's definitely some great YouTube videos out there by some other content creators who have, you know, built their Ningguangs, I want to say in ways similar to what I've built my Mona, but maybe with some minor variations. To where, you know, when she uses her elemental burst while her shield is up, she's just absolutely crushing things. I want to say a few weeks ago I saw a video of somebody's Ningguang on the China servers that, like, I want to say two-shotted Dvalin with the elemental burst. And I want to say it was the world level 6 Dvalin, so it was a pretty high level one too. What do I think about Baizhu? And when do I think he'll be coming out? My opinion, I'm kind of excited for when he comes out and love his design. So I think he's really interesting. I don't know what to expect as far as a possible release date for that character. I think that there's going to be, you know, there's a lot to that, right? So they can't just release the character without also adding a Dendro boss for us to farm Ascension materials from. So it's going to kind of have to accompany some kind of small scale, like, region release. So honestly, if I had to guess, since it doesn't appear that we're going to see any of that in the next version, my expectation would be that we won't see Baizhu at least until Inazuma comes out. Maybe we'll possibly see a Dendro hypostasis in Inazuma, or some kind of other Dendro boss in Inazuma that will allow us to farm Dendro type materials, and at which point then we might actually see Baizhu. It would make sense at that time. I don't think they're going to give us any kind of a Dendro boss before we have a Dendro character that can utilize it. What do I think about... Okay, yeah, I already did that. Has anyone unlocked the child dialogue about Varka? No, I haven't, but if somebody has, that would be interesting. Let me see if I've actually... I probably don't have that, just because I haven't leveled him yet, and I really haven't dived through his story or his voiceover stuff yet, just because I just got him. Let's see, the Fatuish, Snaya, Comrades, share. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Yeah, because so these are all here. I have to get him to friendship level 4. He has some interesting voice lines about a lot of characters. I definitely need to get this character leveled up, and I'm probably going to, once I get Jean to friendship level 10, which is pretty soon, every time I start collecting rewards after that, I'm probably going to bounce her out of my party and start leveling Child's friendship level for that reason. Varka took the entire cavalry with him. Yeah, he did. He took like a large portion of the Knights of Favonius along with him when he left. So we do know that, you know, he's got some kind of purpose going on out there. Some people have said that, you know, it's possible that it may also be that, you know, he went to Dragonspire or whatever, or Dragonspine, but, oh, come on. I had just pushed the swap button. But it's hard to say exactly what to expect from Varka at this point. It could really go any way. Oh, come on. That was kind of obnoxious. I kind of don't know what to think about Varka, though. Like, Jean seems to like him. Like, she seems to have admiration towards him at the very least. But to me, just from, you know, knowing the events of the manga and seeing kind of how things have been working out, you know, knowing what we know about some other characters who don't really want to associate themselves with the Knights of Favonius anymore, I don't necessarily think that Varka might have the city's best interest at heart. He might be somebody who's actually hiding something, or you know, not. He could actually be, you know, working with the Fatui or something. We don't know. But I definitely think there's something more to him than, you know, meets the eye, at least as far as what Jean has told us about him, because like I said, she seems to think that he's, you know, somebody to be admired, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case. But maybe we'll learn a little bit more about Varka with that child voice line when we get far enough for that, and that possibly could clarify some things, so we'll see. I'm trying to catch up. I'm a little bit behind on the voice chat again, guys, so bear with me here just a second. Is the bird in Diluc's idle animation Vanessa? So I've thought that myself, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is. And I feel like that could be why they did that. You know, it could be like one of those things to also suggest a further connection between Diluc and Vanessa. But we don't have anything, again, concrete that would actually say that it is. Because Vanessa founded the Knights of Favonius, and she was the first Grand Master of the Ordo. Yeah, so that is another good point about that. And that's one of the things that kind of makes me sad that Diluc doesn't want to associate himself with the Knights anymore either. And if he is related to Vanessa, and if he is aware of that, then that also could explain why he is also so resentful for having, you know, left the Knights as well. Because if it's part of his heritage, and, you know, he had to disassociate himself due to the shame that they brought on his family, that I could definitely see him, you know, being pretty angry about that, on top of the fact that they, you know, basically, you know, really dissed his father after he, you know, died. But really, they put Diluc through a horrible situation there anyways, because it's not super well known. Because a lot of people haven't really leveled up Kaya to see his full story. But Diluc's father wasn't just killed by a backfire as a result of using the delusion. He actually was badly, like mortally injured, and was suffering and bleeding out, and Diluc had to actually kill him himself to stop him from suffering further, because he was in such torment, supposedly. So, like, Diluc is super twisted up in his head because of what happened, and it's pretty messed up, really, when you look at, you know, how all that went together. What do I think of? Okay, let's see. I'm trying to catch up a little bit more here because I'm about 10 minutes behind on the chat, guys, so I'm trying to just kind of cherry pick a few things as I move through here and try to catch up. What's the best 5-star DPS? I prefer Mona. On a personal level, she is my favorite of the 5-star DPS. From the testing that I've done, she and Klee are both very close to the top of the charts in overall output DPS, as in straight damage per second, as in reliable, consistent damage. For burst opportunities, Mona also is among the top producers in burst, and so is Klee. Other notable entries in burst production would include characters like Diluc. So there's definitely, you know, other great 5-star characters who can provide damage outside of just the catalyst users. I think Child actually will probably be a great consistent producer as well. I just haven't had a lot of time to actually play with the character to really say definitively how that character should be used, but you guys can expect some content from me with Child in the future, in future streams for sure. Okay, have I tried playing Genshin on mobile? Yeah, Katie, I have tried playing Genshin Impact. I have an iPhone, like the newest model iPhone, and it runs great on my phone. I don't really have any complaints about that. I think that if I had to complain about anything, it would just be that, you know, playing the game on a phone, you know, with a touch screen without any kind of tactile response from the attacks is a little clunky. But I mean, that's all mobile games. So Greece, yeah, I can show you my Gene build. So currently my Gene is set up as a secondary DPS / healer support. So basically what that means is I've leaned into as much attack as I can with as much energy recharge as I can have in order to make sure that her elemental burst comes up so that oh crap button is available whenever you're about to die. I do need to straighten out her artifacts a little bit. But really the only way I can really change these other 3 artifacts would be to get high energy recharge substats, and I just haven't really had great luck with that yet. You know, like I haven't had anything that really is super compelling for me to replace them at this time. But I will in time. I need to really look through some of the other options. Oh, another elemental mastery one, come on. I forgot to even check and see what that one was after I ran that one. I've had the worst luck with trying to get a good Royal Pocket Watch. I've been trying to get one that has energy recharge, or yeah, mostly just energy recharge would be nice. That's what I'm hoping to get. Attack is fine. I've got a few of those now, but not necessarily any that I super want to enhance, but it's not necessarily bad. Like this one I could use, but it's not great substats. This one I could use, but again, not great substats. That one's actually really bad substats. And this one I could use because it's got 2 decent substats already, but it's Elemental Mastery. It's not something I really want to throw on Mona. So I'm kind of having this issue where I keep hitting all around what I'm trying to get, but I'm not actually getting it. Do I think Mona will be more involved in the main story since she's trying to help the Traveler? Yeah, I actually do think that Mona's probably going to get wrapped into the main story at some point in the future. Especially since, yeah, she is trying to help the Traveler figure out, you know, what happened and what his relationship to Teyvat actually is and why he can, you know, absorb the elements and all that good stuff. I think that Mona's definitely going to be crucial to the story at some point in time. Nay, yeah, Tartaglia's story was really nice. I really enjoyed the story. I thought it was a great contrast to the main story. So, you know, with the main story, we definitely saw his capacity for ruthlessness. But in his side story, we saw his capacity for, you know, like love and warmth, you know, because he definitely cares about his little brother, and he didn't want his little brother even to see the somewhat harsher side of him. He didn't want him to think of him that way. Apparently the other members of his family does know his relationship with the Tsaritsa, but his youngest brother did not, and he doesn't want him to know that, and he doesn't want him to see him that way. And I thought that was a really interesting and respectable way for him to, you know, to conduct himself. Even though Paimon was constantly kind of giving him crap for not wanting his brother to see that, I suspect, you know, Paimon just doesn't really have family and can't really be expected to understand why one would not necessarily want their family to see them in a different light. Oh man, he got crushed. How many constellations on my child? None, Hamim. Like most of my 5-star characters, I don't really have any constellations on him. Lucky, yeah, I've shown my Mona build quite a few times already tonight. But I do have a video on my channel already that discusses my Mona build at depth. So I would recommend that you check that out if you get the opportunity. Is it better to plow through lower level domains to quickly get rewards, or do higher level ones for a better chance at artifacts like Crimson Witch? I would recommend, if you can do the higher level ones, to do the higher level ones. I think that there's not really any kind of a comparison in terms of, you know, the kind of rewards that you'll get. I think you're definitely going to be better off doing those. I missed it. Who do I think Mona DPS? How do I think Mona with 0 constellations? I think Mona's fantastic as a DPS with 0 constellations for one very important reason. My Mona has no constellations and is a good DPS. This whole like concept of like characters having to have constellations in order to be good DPS is kind of a farce. Like, it's not true. Like, you don't need constellations for characters to be good. 4-star characters kind of need constellations in order to properly compete with their 5-star counterparts, but outside of that, the 5-star characters don't really need them. Are they better with them? Yeah. But do you need them? No. Where did Krampus get his delusion from, since Il Dottore wasn't or didn't seem to recognize it when Diluc had it? And why is Diluc capable of using both vision and delusion? So the delusions are usable by everyone. They're artificial visions. They were created by the Fatui. We don't know exactly who's creating the delusions. We don't know if they're coming from the Tsaritsa or if Il Dottore, I don't know how to say his name, if he's the one creating them or not. We do know that, you know, especially after Child's story, that he is something of a creator. We know that, you know, he's been messing with the ruins guards and stuff in, you know, en masse, really. So it's possible that he's actually the creator of the delusions, but he may, you know, if he's making lots of delusions, which it seems like he is, and they probably all look the same or very similar. If he spotted Diluc with one, there probably wasn't really any mystery to that at all. He was probably aware that Diluc's father had it, and probably wasn't surprised at all to see that Diluc would have it after his father's death. If we don't get Mr. Cyclops, you're gonna riot. Yeah, that was interesting for sure. Do we know Diluc's delusion element? So from the manga, it just kind of seemed like it was like, it looked like it was still like some kind of a dark flame or something. It didn't seem like it was anything, you know, super unusual or like, you know, not pyro oriented. It seemed like he was kind of using it to just manifest a different kind of flame, to be very honest with you. What is Il Dottore and Kaya's father's relationship? And how is Diluc able to use delusion and vision? So, yeah, again, because the delusions are just artificial visions, there's not any kind of a restriction as to who can use them. They're able to be used by anybody. That was actually the main reason why they've created them, is so that people who do not have, you know, the gift of a vision can still use elemental abilities. Let's see. If you have Bennett, your team looks perfect. Oh, okay, yeah. Let's see what. I don't know if I see the person that you're talking to directly up there. Yeah, I don't see it. Quincy, what do I think of Albedo? From a story standpoint, I think the character could be pretty interesting. There's a lot of possible relationship with him and Klee, even possibly. Like, some people are suggesting that maybe he may have had a close connection to Klee's father and was also left with the Knights of Favonius for the same reason, which was that Klee's parents, you know, left them there maybe because they're, you know, going on adventures and doing their thing. And then, you know, he stayed, you know, and became a Knight of Favonius himself and, like, the foremost authority on alchemy. So I think that the character could be really, really interesting as a whole, and its impact on the greater story could be really interesting as well. From a actual gameplay standpoint, I really don't know anything about the character. But I also don't really want to get too much into leaks territory anymore, just because I know MiHoYo's not playing with that. And honestly, I never really was too keen on talking about leak stuff anyways, just because there's a reason why they, you know, have been attempting to NDA that information. They're not ready to discuss it. So it's kind of not cool for everybody to just run around with that information. So it's one of the reasons why I don't really make news videos on it. In the Discord, someone said something about deems aside visions and delusions. What are deems? Hamim, I haven't actually... This is the first I'm seeing that term. I don't know if maybe I'm overlooking something or if there's just some context that I'm missing for it. But yeah, I might have overlooked something here. Maybe if you can give me a little bit more context on that. Sorry if you missed any answer to it earlier, but thoughts on Diona builds. So the way I would probably build a Diona would probably be mostly focused on HP, because that, I mean, her best role is going to be that of a healer. So I would probably try to go, as much healing as possible. I'd probably even consider throwing Maiden Beloved on that character just to see what kind of return you can get from it. I haven't built my Diona, so I can't say for sure how that will actually work. But I've been meaning to at some point, but as we all know, it can be pretty hard to get all the materials that we need for everything, quickly. So right now I can't say for certainty what the best build for a Diona is going to be, but I would say a heavy focus on HP to get the best results from her healing possible is going to be the way to go. And then probably energy recharge as well, because it's really hard to go wrong with that one on a healer. Okay, this thing is just poking me in the back now. Ugh. Still having some trouble with my mouse. To any of you guys who were in my stream a couple of weeks ago when I was complaining about my mouse, I did buy a replacement mouse. And well, I ordered a replacement mouse, and then it got stuck in shipping or something. So I've still been dealing with the same mouse that gets the left click stuck and won't let me use charge to text when I want to sometimes, which is kind of frustrating. But yeah, I got stuck in shipping, and then it got stuck in the order system, and then I wouldn't let me cancel the order, and yeah, I ended up having to make some phone calls to cancel it. That was rough. If you're saving for pity, singles is the best way. Yeah, so there has been some interesting information to come out that suggests that the pity system begins to slide the rates upwards after the 70th roll. And so basically, it makes sense to me, because when the game hadn't yet come out, but they revealed the rates, I actually was preparing to do a video on the gacha wish rates. And it was saying that the rates were 1.6. And so I did the math on it, because I was trying to see, okay, what are your actual chances per roll, and what does that mean for its, greater impact as, doing 10 rolls and all that. And I could not get the rates to actually add up to 1.6, and I couldn't figure out why. And so somebody who's a little bit better at probability math than I sat down and figured out actually why it was working that way. And the only way they could get it to add up that way was if the rate started to slowly slide upwards after the 70th roll. And it actually does result in the advertised 1.6 rate. So, and I would have to say from experience, rolling above 70 in singles, because after I read that, I did start rolling in singles above that, and I have not reached pity one time since I started doing that, because I keep getting the characters before that. So it does seem relatively decisive to me that it does start sliding upwards after 70. But you do need to make sure while you're doing your rolls, like, to me, as a general rule of thumb, I always try to make sure that I have a notepad nearby. Now, I always have a notepad around anyways, because I pretty much any time I note any kind of a lore aspect or something, I write it down. Or if I have an idea for a video or something, I write it down. But I do keep a notepad nearby also for the purpose of keeping track of what roll I'm on, so that I don't, so that I know where I am in regard to pity. If you're not doing that, then, you might just be setting yourself up for disappointment. 70 means your 8k primo is not even enough for Zhongli. So yeah, 8k primo I do believe is around 50 rolls. I would recommend you have 3 weeks until Zhongli comes out, Etchy. If you were to get the Welkin Moon, you'll add enough to your account over the next 3 weeks or close to it to probably reach at least into the 70s. So 10 out of 10 would recommend. It's a cheap thing that you can buy each month that guarantees, you know, close to 20 rolls a month, which is, you know, I think it's probably one of the best deals in the game from a financial standpoint. You're really looking forward to Alice being playable, considering how pyromaniac Klee is, and you're excited to see how her mom does things. Also, Amber's Baron Bunny was her inspiration for Klee's bombs. Yeah, so yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting as well, and it's also like established that that Klee has helped Amber improve Baron Bunny, which is funny to me. And it kind of makes sense, you know, like Baron Bunny is an explosive bunny, so you know her helping Amber make it better is totally, like, it seems like something Klee would be invested in doing. Yeah, at the 76th pull, you have over 50% chance of getting a 5-star. Yeah, that seems to be the general consensus as well, from what I've seen. You see, I got Klee, or you got Klee on the last day of the banner. That means the pity reset. No, actually, Etchy, the pity doesn't. Oh, wait, so yeah, if you got Klee, yes, the pity reset. Yes, it does. Yeah, so you would have to start from the bottom and work your way back up again. You're saving Primo Gems because you're praying for Chung Yun to increase his constellation. Okay. So I take it you're waiting for a rate up banner to include Chung Yun as one of the provided 4-stars then, Rena? Not a bad strategy if you're trying to lean into Chung Yun. You think Paimon is a bad guy? Yeah, a lot of people seem to think Paimon's a bad guy. I definitely have my own thoughts on Paimon's role, but I don't really subscribe to the whole Paimon's actually bad and, you know, misdirecting you and deceiving you throughout all of this. To me, I've seen way too many things that would generally indicate to me that Paimon's actually a good person. I really don't think that she's destined to end up being a villain. Do I think the MC will end up becoming an Archon? Actually, Bob, I think what's more likely is that there is an Archon to end all Archons kind of situation. Maybe it was the Sustainer, or maybe it's somebody even above the Sustainer, but there may have been a like a greater decision made above the Archons that decided, like, hey, this world is, you know, self-destructive as hell, and we have to, you know, find a way to balance this. And it was determined throughout the Archon Wars that, you know, this was going to be the way to do this. We're going to have the 7, and the 7 will keep things at balance. And whenever something steps out of line, or a civilization, you know, steps out of line and worships a god not among the 7, then that civilization is essentially erased. And I think that there may be an Archon that governs the Archons, as it were. And, you know, if you look at, for instance, the Traveler's main line, it says a traveler from another world who had their only kin taken away, forcing them to embark on a journey to find the 7. So I want to say, if you look at one of the other ones, I want to say it's under profile. Did they change this recently? There was a line about Ascension. Huh. Where did that one go? Is it over here? Oh, here it is. The Keeper is fading away, which in China, actually, the Keeper is translated to the Sustainer. So I don't know what that ends up really meaning in the broader scheme of things. But it says, the Creator has not yet come, but the world shall burn no more, for you shall ascend. I'm wondering if what they're actually building towards is the like the Traveler end up being like the Archon that governs the Archons. I think that actually would be even more interesting. So we'll see. I think I kind of suspect that's where they're going, not necessarily with them just becoming an Archon, but maybe the Archon. Pity resets for any 5-star. Yeah, if you get any 5-star at all, not necessarily just the banner 5-star, it will reset your pity. Yeah, Ibra, I did notice that that he actually has voice acting now, which is actually really cool. If you guys were not aware of that, all of these conversations here that the Traveler has with Paimon, if you had ever checked them in the past, they did not have voice lines, but now they do. They came out with 1.1. I guess they didn't really talk about that in the patch notes for some reason, but like they actually do. Like, and they're pretty interesting. I've only listened to about half of them so far, but they're a good listen. I definitely enjoyed sitting there listening to the ones that I did. I just haven't had the opportunity to finish them off yet. Even if you don't get, if you don't get the featured 5-star, it will still reset your pity. You recently read a comment on the Teyvat chapter trailer, and that comment had some good theory. It's something about triggering the Honkai because tech development and the 7 is there to control it. So yeah, Saltless, I did see that as well. I think that particular theory has been circulating a lot as of late, and I would generally agree that is a distinct possibility. That's kind of what the intent of the world is right now, and this like idea of the Archon to end all Archons is kind of also the deciding factor on that, and that actually could be what the role of the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles fulfills. She could be there to eliminate the cultures that arise and rely too heavily on technology, and that could be why the ancient civilization of 500 years ago was obliterated. Is that they may have been developing technology that was likely to draw on that Honkai energy and end up resulting in a world-ending event. So they just go ahead and erase those civilizations from the map to prevent the Honkai the Honkai energy from building to a point that will result in, that God Kiana situation where she just destroys everything instead. Andrew Lockwood, which would be quite interesting if the twins are the twins on the arc from the Honkai, becoming a god potentially capable of facing the 12th Herrscher. Yeah, that could be really interesting, and that actually could be what they're working towards. They actually could still be building Honkai Impact Third into a story that intertwines with this more deeply than we first realized. I kind of hope that is where they're going, and in time, if it does kind of work its way more towards that, I may actually start doing a little bit more content, or may start doing some content on that interaction, and even maybe actually playing that game a little bit more, because it's been a while since I've played it now, and I didn't really get that far into it, probably not more than 40 hours or something, maybe 40, 50 hours. So we'll see. Yeah, many gods did fight in the war. Only 7 won the Archon title. Yeah, mostly because the other ones all died, and the ones that didn't all retreated to the Dark Seas. The voice actor of Lumine is kind of off and monotonous. I don't know that I would agree with that at all. At least not where the trailer, the We Will Be Reunited trailer is concerned. In that trailer, I really loved what she brought to the dark sibling approach. I honest to goodness, her interpretation of that role, what she brought to the role, is what made me decide to pick Aether as my main character, because I wanted to continue to hear the voice actor of Lumine be the dark sibling. I really loved what she brought to the character. When Child says that I didn't think you had that card up your sleeve after the Traveler used Animo and Geo, does he know that the Traveler is, or did he think that they have a delusion? I think he kind of just understands that the Traveler is capable of using more than one element. I think that, he was just surprised about that. I don't think he knew that the Traveler was capable of doing this. I don't think that he thought that the Traveler has a delusion. But the Traveler is effectively kind of in that same situation, though, right? Because the only people who can control multiple elements at the same time are delusion wielders. You counted all your rolls together from all banners, and you have 126 and still no 5-star. Either you're not listening to the answer, but does one have to be 70 wishes from... Yeah, so you have to actually reach 90 to hit the guaranteed pity, Toby. But the rates scale up dramatically after 70. But they do have to be on one banner. They don't apply across the banners. So if you have 70 plus rolls in the event banner, the limited banner for the child banner, you're going to get that rate up. But if you broke those rolls, that like 126 rolls that you have there, if you broke that across the two and you haven't even hit 60 or you haven't even hit 70 on either of those banners yet because you have the even amount, then you're still under it. Because they do count separately. Do I think the Traveler can use 2 or all elements at the same time? Ledbach, NS Ledbach, I think that it like canonically, I think it's probably implied that the Traveler actually can use all of the elements that he obtains at the same time. I don't know that we'll ever be able to do that, but I think that the character actually is capable of using them at the same time. The male MC is apparently, let's see, it's a common bug where these games that lets you choose. Yeah, so there's definitely some odd issues where they accidentally have references to the wrong gender throughout the voice acting and or also throughout the text. Hopefully they'll fix those issues in time. What do I think Paimon really is? So Elazol, I think what might actually be happening with Paimon is that, and this is something that I'm probably going to do a theory on in the future, so I'm not going to get too deep into it, but what I kind of suspect is that Paimon could be a disembodied aspect of the Sustainer, and she doesn't actually know what she is. So, like, as opposed to her being the Sustainer and actually having malintent for you or being related to the Sustainer or working for Lumine, I think that Paimon is just her own person. And she's just the disembodied fragment of some aspect of the Sustainer's psyche. You know, kind of like a, you know, like a Seven Deadly Sins kind of situation where she's like one of the aspects of her mind. That kind of situation is what I kind of suspect Paimon might actually be, but I don't have a whole lot built into this theory yet, but it's kind of a theory in progress right now. I'm not going to get into really deep why I think that might be just yet, but yeah, I think that that's kind of what's going on with Paimon. Is Child a evil or good character? You were surprised when he became playable since you thought he was evil. So, Marcel, I think Child is intended to kind of be one of those characters who's morally in the middle. So, like, he's this character who is... He has this this career, basically. He works for the Tsaritsa, and he seems to believe in the Tsaritsa's goal. We don't even know what the Tsaritsa's goal is, but he definitely believes in it. And he's willing to do just about anything to see that goal achieved. But at the same time, when he's interacting with his own little brother, he doesn't want his little brother to know what it is that he does. And to me, that suggests that he's actually not proud of who he is or what he's doing. To me, that suggests remorse, regret. Somebody who's evil doesn't have that. You know, somebody who is actually evil won't have remorse or regret afterwards. They'll do that without, you know, they'll do their bad things and their, you know, evil deeds, and they'll just, you know, they won't skip a beat. They'll just do it. They don't have a second thought on it. To me, that story was very telling about Child. It says that he is actually a character who's among the redeemable. So we'll kind of see where they go from here, but no, I don't think he's actually evil. I think he's just very career focused. Okay, let's see. You thought Child is just being a harbinger to protect his family and provide for the family through mora and status. So that is another one of the aspects of it that does seem to be apparent through Child, is that, yeah, he's trying to protect his family, but I also do believe that he believes in the goals of the Tsaritsa, and that he actually thinks that he's doing what's best for Snezhnaya and his family. But like I said, he does seem to have some level of regret for some of the actions that he's taken. And to me, that's very telling. His downside is that he's obsessive. Yeah, he is obsessive when it comes to fighting. He has this need to prove himself in battle, which is I guess, an interesting trait for his character to have. He's very competitive in that regard. So he probably has like this nagging need to prove himself to everybody else around him, which is, kind of an interesting problem for a character who, is also family focused. He's extreme on his family. Yeah, I would definitely agree. I really, really, really appreciated his story, because to me that proved that he wasn't evil. Like I said, if he were evil, if he were just straight evil, he wouldn't have any regrets about the things that he's done. But he seems like he does have regrets for the things that he's done. He doesn't want his little brother to know who he is, really. That's shame. Evil doesn't have shame. Evil just does what it does and moves on and doesn't even think about the consequences that it had on the backside. His dialogue did hint that he believes in the Tsaritsa. Yeah, I definitely think that he is like full on supporting like the Tsaritsa's goal. And I also thought that it was fairly telling that even Zhongli did not seem to have any, at least it doesn't appear that he has any objections to the Tsaritsa's goal. He seems to be very much okay with letting her enact that goal and giving her his gnosis based on whatever it was that she gave him in return for it. So I don't know if if we can really look into it that far, but I think we probably can, because Zhongli does seem to be the kind of person who would have humanity's best interest in mind. So I think it was also relative. Like, I think there wasn't a chance that, like, if the sea giant that Child had summoned earlier in the story in 1.1, or later in the story in 1.1, if that thing actually was going to destroy Liyue, I don't think Zhongli would have sat there and let it happen. At that point, he would have not gone through with the contract. He would have kept his gnosis. He would have quelled the god again by, sealing him under the spears of rock like he did 2,000 years earlier, and it would have been over. So he wouldn't have allowed anything bad to happen to Liyue one way or the other. And I don't think he would have ever agreed to even letting Liyue be tested if he thought there was actually any real danger for the city. Yes, Dust, the Tsaritsa is the Cryo Archon, that is correct. Zhongli is not a very smart man. He's hardworking, but he gave his plan a little bit too little thought. I don't know. I really think he gave his plan a lot of thought. I think you might be underselling Zhongli's vision for the future a little bit too much. I think the one thing he does obviously underestimate is, Mora's importance in the world. But that makes sense when you think about it, because he's been the sole producer of Mora in Teyvat for, as long as the civilized cultures of Teyvat have existed. And as a result, he doesn't really understand how it works. Like, he knows he can make it, and he knows that, if he needs it, it's there for him. But in the absence of that ability, like, he's, it's like Child said, he can't imagine what it would be like to not have Mora, because he's just always had it. Zhongli did say he was ready to step in if Liyue proved not able to defend themselves. Exactly. So yeah, he was going to jump in there and save the day if it was necessary. It just wasn't necessary. Like, the Qixing and the Traveler and the Adepti all stepped up and kept the city safe. Venti has been sleeping for hundreds of years, so he has been out of contact from the Tsaritsa. Yeah, so that's one of the other interesting aspects of this, is it's not even just that he hasn't been in contact with her, it's that she also won't talk to him anymore. She cut all ties with him. And I do believe that, like, he also mentioned that there was some relation to the calamity from 500 years ago. He didn't say exactly what the connection to that calamity was, but he did say it was as a result of that. So right now we can really mostly only speculate on how that actually worked out and what events went into play to result in it, but I do think that there's some interesting revelations to be had there, and I definitely would be surprised if we don't see Venti more active in the story in the future. And Venti didn't seem too bothered by losing his gnosis. If you listen to the tone of his voice in the scene after his gnosis was taken, when he's underneath the tree, he seems pretty upset. Like for the first time in the entire game, he has broken his, kind of his normal, happy-go-lucky attitude. He didn't really have that upbeat tone in his voice anymore. He definitely had a tone of voice that suggested, like, oh, damn, like, this is bad. Like, this really shouldn't have happened. This is not good. What does this mean? Like, to me, he did seem concerned. He's just, as an Archon, he also doesn't, there's things that he can't talk about with everybody else. And I think that the Archons do that to protect the civilizations of Teyvat. That's part of their job. Your AR-22 and trying to get a prototype? Which prototype are you trying to get, Ionfire? What's the next Archon you think we'll be able to play? I would suspect it will be the Eternal Shogun. It's going to be the Electro Archon. If they do continue the trend of making all the Archons playable, it will be that one, because that should be the next one that we will interact with. What do I theorize about the next Archon quest? Do you think we'll be able to play each Archon? Yeah, I do, Himi. I think that is probably likely to continue to occur. And as far as what I expect for us to see, this whole, deeper story of the Tsaritsa trying to collect everybody's gnosis is interesting for sure. We don't know why she's doing that yet, but I do suspect that maybe there's already been an attempt to take the the Electro Archon's gnosis from her, and maybe after that failed, she has, kind of tightened up ship and is trying to, prevent anyone else from being able to, try that again. Or it's also very possible, since we do know that no Electro-visions have been given out for over a year, that the Electro Archon's gnosis has already been taken from her. And the reason why she's confiscating everybody's Electro visions is in some way her trying to maybe forge some kind of a replacement power generator for herself to manifest her powers again. It could really go either way. Traveler already asked Venti about the sibling. Yeah, so I don't know that Venti really knows anything about the sibling. I would be surprised if he did. Do more streams like this. All is so interesting for me. It helps you to get your mind off the recent heartbreak you had. Well, I'm really sorry to hear that, Boom Pop, and I'm glad I was able to help. I do these streams every Saturday night at 9 p.m. EST. I'm East Coast USA. But yeah, I do these every night at 9 p.m. EST, usually for 3 to 4 hours, which brings me to the next point, which is I'm probably going to be wrapping up the stream in about 25 minutes. So if you guys have questions, be sure to, try to get them out so that we can try to get through them. You think the Tsaritsa wants to take matters into her own hands, using their power to defeat a evil by herself without relying on others to protect them. That may be possible. The Tsaritsa may be a character who is, trying to play the long game and maybe become the Archon that ends all Archons. This is one of those interesting things. And so the storylines trailer that they released right around when the game came out, there's ancient text underneath each of the subtitle or each of the subcategories for each of the regions. So like when the screen goes black, it says the name of the quest. So for instance, on the quest where for the prologue, it's called the Outlander Who Caught the Wind. Underneath it it has ancient text, and that ancient text I translated is actually Latin. And it said, I don't know how to read Latin exactly, so excuse me if anybody in here does know how to say it and I'm saying this crap wrong. It said, Me libertas meus canor, which translates to my freedom will roar. And for Farewell Archaic Lord, the second quest line on that trailer, it translated to Ruat Caelum Fiat Pactum, which is a loose translation to something about the let the sky fall contract. And to me, that may be talking about Zhongli and his contract to quote unquote let the sky fall. He may, I'm thinking that it's possible that the Tsaritsa might have in mind she might be trying to literally topple Celestia. There may be, this overseeing Archon in Celestia, and Celestia may still be governing the other Archons in some way. And even if you look at the manga, the end of the first issue of the manga, when Vanessa has ascended and she goes to Celestia, she goes into this really big room where there's kind of this really awkward looking, just kind of amorphous thing floating in the air, and it's not really well defined what that is. But it was a little bit off-putting. She comes out of it afterwards as, the hawk or whatever that it looks like Diluc has in his animations. So, it seemed like whatever that interaction was, it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. They allowed her to ascend and become, one of the watchful eyes of Mondstadt. But it does seem like maybe the Tsaritsa might be, what's the word I'm looking for, somewhat not okay with this arrangement, or maybe she's, just not happy with the status quo, and she may be trying to overpower it. I actually am working on a theory for this in the future as well, so it's definitely something that I'm going to be getting into a little bit more. But for those of you who are more curious about the and wanting to see these translations that I'm talking about, I am currently working on a 1.0 through 1.1 story recap video. That's going to be the next video that I release, and I actually have prepared those translations and have them in that video. So you should expect that sometime over the next week, or probably early this week. I'm hoping to have the video done by Monday or Tuesday is my goal. So yeah, you'll only see the translations that I've done for the first two, because the other story portions haven't happened yet, so I won't be unveiling them right now. But my goal will be, each time the story is updated, I'll be continuing to release recap videos where more and more of those translations and their deeper meaning will be explored to some degree as time goes on. And they also may be, good points of theory craft in the future as well, because there's no way that they put that Latin text in there for no reason. Yeah, so I noticed that that the pieces were different. Like Zhongli's did appear to be a rook, Venti's did appear to be a queen. But it's hard to say exactly, why they may have been that way. So we do know what is there. There's a king, a queen. There's, in the back row, there's the king, the queen, the bishop, the rook, and the knight, right? That's only 5. So I guess there would be 2 of the others. So is it presumable? No, because I'm trying to think about, isn't there 8 pieces across in the back row of a chessboard? I think there is. I think there's 8 pieces. So is who then would be the king? Is the king the overseer Archon, or the other 7s overlooking? Is there a king one in Celestia overlooking the other 7? And a lot of the other 7 aren't active in Teyvat. Supposedly they are in Celestia still, and if that's the case, why, and what are they doing? They really could go any direction with all this stuff, and I definitely enjoy kind of using the information that we've gathered thus far to kind of try to theorycraft what they might be trying to do with it. It's definitely been a nice departure from what is otherwise kind of a dumpster fire of a year in 2020. So it's, you know, I'm so grateful this game finally came out this year, as I've definitely had probably more fun theory crafting for this game than I have really even just playing most games over the last decade, really. Oh, he's gonna try to shoot me. It wasn't so bad. How do I have my gene built? My gene is focused on attack and energy recharge. And the reason why I've built her that way is that attack will help her maximize her healing output. And energy recharge will help me bring up her oh crap button elemental burst as much as possible. Maybe the 7th is the pawn. Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but because, to me, the way I kind of don't think there would be any pawn ones, just because pawns are pawns, you know? They sit in the front row. They're, you know, they're, to me, like, the inhabitants of Teyvat are the pawns. That's kind of the way I perceive that to be. You think it will be more like 1 queen, 2 rooks, 2 knights, 2 bishop, and the traveler is the pawn, which can promote, but you don't know. It's an interesting interpretation. Like, yeah, it could go either way. And the king might be the sustainer or the traveler, because beside the god, he's the only one who doesn't have a vision. So, you know, that's also, yeah, an interesting way that it could go. Is that, you know, that the traveler is gaining the elements from all of the other archons by interacting with their statues of the 7. It's very possible that once the traveler has attained all of those elements, that the traveler could be gifted the king's gnosis. That is a possibility as well. And I think that would be a really cool way for them to kind of culminate all of that. That actually would be really cool if they did that. We'll see. Do I think there is any chance or possibility of there being 8 archons? Yeah, I think that there actually is a possibility that there is some kind of overseeing 8th archon. It may be the sustainer of heavenly principles. Like that may already be a situation. And the 7 are just the ones that are established to, you know, keep the order in the lands. And the 8th is basically, you know, agreed to not be involved unless the 7 cannot keep their lands at, you know, in order. And that may be what the situation, you know, that arose within Eastern Mondstadt with the ancient civilization, is that, you know, within the lands east of Mondstadt, Venti wasn't, you know, because he's interested in maintaining a land of freedom and giving people the choice to do what they want. They were just worshiping whatever they wanted, doing whatever they wanted, building whatever they wanted. And as a result, you know, the sustainer showed up and kind of ruined everything. Because this is, you know, the sustainer's job, or this 8th god's job, to prevent the, you know, the advent of advanced technology, or to prevent possibly just from the people of Teyvat from worshiping those other than the 7 for whatever their reasons are. And that actually could still really tie into, you know, the whole theory of the Honkai energy from Honkai Third Impact, and the, you know, the gods of Teyvat really being the only ones who understand that is a consequence of, you know, technological advancement. So yeah, that could very well be where they're going with that, and if it is, I would love it if that's how they were kind of going. And you know, the thoughts that, you know, I definitely have thought since the beginning that Teyvat is, because it is literally Hebrew for ark, that Teyvat is intended to be the ark, you know, that's mentioned in Honkai Impact, and that this was the results of that project. And so they're still subject to the confines of these Honkai energy issues. They're trying to, you know, that the Ark was created to try to save humanity. Well, it did, but it's still haunted by those same problems. You know, if you don't learn from those events, you're doomed to repeat them. So the Archons may just be invested in helping humanity not repeat that issue. But they're also, you know, bound to not let the inhabitants of Teyvat know that this is why. Why they're not allowing everybody to know, I couldn't begin to actually speculate. Maybe it would be easier for them to protect everybody if they did know why. Or maybe they're worried that, you know, if people knew, that they would try to harness that ability, which also could be another one of those arrogation type situations, you know, humanity trying to claim powers that are not their own. Because that was, I thought, one of the interesting things about the Sustainers lines initially in the opening of the game as well, is that she chose the word arrogation. And the word arrogate is to claim that as which is not your own without justification. So that's a very particular word choice. You don't just throw that word around unless you really mean it. So that was one of those things that I definitely found really interesting about that character. Oh, I appreciate it, Jonathan Kennedy. Yeah, if you guys haven't hit the like button, please do. I always appreciate when you guys leave likes on the videos. It definitely helps the old YouTube algorithm, you know, set my videos apart from some of the other ones, and makes it more likely that others will watch the video after it is reposted as a, you know, a recording. And if you guys haven't yet, definitely make sure to hit the subscribe button as well. I've got a lot more lore content and theory content planned for the near future. For those of you who are also fans of the Historia scale that I've been working on, I have frozen that project for the time being, but that's because I became aware of some information that may be invalidating some of my data. And until I can make corrections to that data, I am not going to be continuing with it. I do know what I need to do to fix it now that I've you know, figured out exactly how it works. It just takes a little time to do it, and I've been working on a lot of other projects in the meantime. But yeah, so I am still working on the Historia scale. If any of you guys were curious about that, I just haven't had the time to fix it yet. But I will be doing that hopefully in the very near future. I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks to get those corrections issued and get it going again. And I'm actually planning, wow, that was a big hit. Yeah, I'm actually planning on something pretty big going forward with the scale. I just haven't had, like I said, the opportunity to push forward with it just yet. Chris Chung, you hope Ganyu is not a bow user. So yeah, I mean, I've actually heard a lot of people say that they really hope she's not a bow user. I don't know what to think about it, honestly. I think that it's possible, yeah, that she could be a bow user. I know there's been stuff floating around that suggests that she might be, but I would like to also point out that there's been I don't want to say tons, but there have been other games that have used words like arrow to describe magical abilities from mages. So I don't necessarily think that it's a guarantee that she will be a bow user. And what art that we have seen from her makes it kind of seem more like she might actually be a catalyst user. So I'm kind of hoping that that's the way that character goes, but we'll see. How is my Mona doing so much auto damage? My Mona's built with attack, hydro bonus damage, and a 2-to-1 crit damage to crit rate ratio. So it helps her to produce really high consistent damage numbers through normals. And it just results in her generally acting like a machine gun against most of the enemies that I encounter. Especially with regard to her charged attack damage. Her charged attacks are crazy punchy. But even then, like, her normals are just consistent. They're really high damage. Like if they crit, they tend to crit around 2,000. And the non-crits are usually still close to, if not over 1,000 at this point. So I really can't complain about that either. And with regard to the equipment that she has, she's currently sitting at 2284 attack and 52.5 crit rate and 123.9% crit damage. And that's also utilizing a 2-piece gladiator bonus and a this attack focused 5-star artifact, which also had an attack flat and crit rate, but I will replace this if I can get one that's better. I'm actually hoping that this will roll decent into the attack and crit rate as I level it up, and I'm thinking that when it hits 20 it will probably help push my Mona over that 175%, energy recharge that I talked about earlier, which should actually result in it giving a hydro damage bonus greater than the 46.6% that it would normally be from an artifact of this type. So it actually should be closer to a 50% boost in hydro bonus damage, even at just 175%, which is what the math suggests that it should be. But we will see. I'm going to be doing some testing on that in the very near future. Hopefully, if at all possible, I'll have some information on that for you guys by my stream next week. But it kind of just depends on how my other projects are kind of working as to how much time I have to allot to mechanics projects versus story and lore projects. I also have been, trying to be a little bit more involved in my Discord server over the past week or so. The first 2 weeks after I released the Discord server, I really was tied up with my theory video, with my God of Time theory, and I just didn't have time to really get involved with the server. And this week, since I got that video out, I've been trying my best to actually, interact with everybody over there, because the community that's kind of formed up over there on the Discord has been so great, and everybody's been generally really positive about the game and really chill when interacting with each other. I haven't seen any kind of like really nasty arguments or anybody being jerks towards each other or anything. It's just formed up as like a really nice community where everybody just seems to get that we're all here because we're enjoying this game and we want to enjoy the lore and the mechanics of the game and just appreciate it for what it is. And to those of you who are in here who are already members of the Discord community, thank you for joining it, and thanks for being awesome, because I really do appreciate having you guys over there. And everybody over there, whenever new people join the Discord, everybody's really welcoming in general, and it's been great. It's been really nice to see everybody kind of come together in a year where division has generally been the theme of reality. It's been nice to see people actually come together for a change, so that's been great. Let's see, Rena, you can see Sumeru going there with the wisdom. I think, yeah. I'm not exactly sure what you're getting at on that one, but they definitely have a theme of wisdom there too, and I've ran into some other translations that would suggest as much as well. If what I'm reading there, if I'm interpreting that correctly. Mark Animax, you really want Mona? Is she as good as Kuching? Yes. I think, honestly, in a lot of ways, Mona is better than Kuching, but there are definitely situations where Kuching is better than Mona. They both have strengths and weaknesses. All the characters have strengths and weaknesses. If I had to pick two characters that I would use as primary DPS, it would be Mona and Kuching, though, but for two very different reasons. But the two characters have so much output potential, and they really are two of my favorite characters for that purpose. Sadly, I have not yet gotten Kuching since the game released, but the experience I have had playing her in the past, I definitely really like that character, and I really do look forward to whenever the day is that I actually see her character pop up in one of my wish results. So I'm going to be ending the stream here in about 5 minutes, guys. So if you got any final questions to get them in, now would be the time to do it. Or not to. You see a lot of people with high damage counts in the AR-40 range. Do they really just do the basics with a few lucky artifacts and the damage reaches the skies? No, you really have to be... If you want your damage to start reaching high numbers consistently, you really have to start min-maxing your characters in an appropriate way. You can't just kind of sit back and go into AR-40 and just kind of use whatever artifacts you find and level up whatever and expect to get good results. You do have to come at it from an angle of method, and without actually doing some experimentation for yourself, or at least doing some research on from others who have, it can be difficult to achieve higher numbers. You're pretty sure Ganyu says that the Dendro Archon is only 500 years old. Could the previous one helped Venti to seal the Sustainer? I might have... So I only played through that scene obviously once. I did record all of it, and I'm actually working on going through all of it again earlier today, and I hadn't gotten to the end portion. I think they may have mentioned something about a Dendro Archon, and I don't know that I remembered off the top of my head that they said it was 500 years old, but that does seem to suggest to me that the previous Dendro Archon may have perished at that time. So yeah, that's an interesting correlation. That could be the case. Yeah, that the Dendro Archon may have helped Venti seal the Sustainer. That seems possible. Where did Alice go? Why did she leave Klee? We don't really know a lot of why Alice left Klee. We just know that she's an adventurer. I think it's probably fairly likely to say that she'll come back for Klee at some point, or that she will re-enter the story at some point in the future to, you know, be reunited with her daughter. To what end, we don't really know much about yet, but I'm sure we will find that out at some point in the future. Was Rex Lapis always Zhongli? At the end of 1.1 update, Rex Lapis talks about Zhongli in third person. So I think he mostly talks about Zhongli in the third person, mostly because he was struggling with trying to find a way where he actually resonated with being that person, because he felt this overwhelming need to be the protector that Liyue Wei needed. He felt this need to be their Archon, and didn't really understand that he wasn't needed anymore until that one day where he kind of had the epiphany that, yeah, I might not be needed anymore. So yeah, I think that Rex Lapis always was Zhongli. Or at least the character Zhongli has always been Rex Lapis. What do I pair Mona with? In terms of character building or character team comps, Matthew Ray, I pair her with a Pyro Resonance. And you can achieve that by whatever means necessary, but it definitely helps to up damage output. Is Kuching or Fischl better? So that's going to depend on what you're using the characters for, but I would say, personally, I prefer Kuching, but I do think Fischl is still really good. Can you fit Diona and Mona and Klee into a combo? Yeah, I think that there's definitely possibility, Chris Young, for that to work. I haven't tried it myself yet, but I will get around to trying to work some combo stuff into seeing what Diona is actually capable of in combos with Mona and with Klee at some point in the future. I'm sure I don't have to tell all you guys that materials don't necessarily come easily, and it can be a little rough to build all that stuff up. All right, I'm going to answer one more question before I take off for the night. Next Origins video when? Salad. So my next Origins video is already written, and after I finish my current project that I'm working on now, I am going to begin producing the next Origins video. So it's not going to be my next video, but it's going to be the one after my next video. So you can expect an Origins video, if all goes well, within about 2 weeks. That's kind of what my production cycle usually suggests as I attempt to balance content creation with my normal work life and all that. But yeah, that's my current plan. Anyways, so that's going to be it for the stream tonight. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I really do appreciate you guys all taking the time to stop in and converse. I really do enjoy talking about the game's lore and theorizing about all of this with you guys, so I do appreciate you guys all coming in and kind of helping me do that. And really, you know, these streams kind of help me soundboard some of my theories as well, because it kind of, you know, if I can actually collect my thoughts intuitively and in a way that makes sense on these streams, sometimes it helps me actually realize, like, hey, yeah, I actually might be onto something. And sometimes I do write notes during these streams of like, hey, this is something I hadn't thought of, and you guys asking me some of these questions kind of gets me thinking about things that in ways that I didn't think of before, which helps me to connect dots for theories in the future. So I do appreciate that as well. But yeah, so thanks to all of you guys for coming in tonight, and I hope to see you in my stream again next week. And if you guys haven't joined the Discord yet, please do. I do have a link to the Discord in the description of this stream, which should be reposted hopefully by morning. And yeah, so everybody have a good night, and thanks for joining the stream.